And we're live. Hello and welcome to the Cartridge Club's recap of the Xbox Game Showcase. It's Rocket Sauce, and I am one of the hosts for the show tonight. And joining me to recap the show we saw today, I have Dean from Round Tune Gaming.
Hey guys.
Caleb.
Hey guys.
Josh.
What's going on?
And the extreme Xbox expert from Xboxer Brief, Musty Hobbit.
Hey guys.
Hey. We saw a total of 26 games today, 6 on the pre-show, 20 on the game showcase. And we knew right from the start, beginning of the show, that we were going to see 22.
Yeah, I thought it was 22.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we had 6 on the pre-show.
I got 22 as well. I got 22 in the main, but then 2 of them were they also in the main.
Sorry,
yeah, that's what I got anyway. That was I counted.
Oops.
Nope, it's all right. It's a lot. Let's just say that it's a lot of games.
We had 28 games here. We knew coming into this show today that we're getting games, strictly games, and that was it. And we got lots of games today. And I think I want to start us off with Halo Infinite because that was all over the billboards. Musty, I know you are a huge Halo fan. Were you happy? Did you get what you wanted?
I am. Yes. I've watched the demo that they did. I was very pleased that they did that style of demo. Because I was looking back at some old trailers because I spent the past week kind of prepping myself for this moment, and I was like, what's this going to look like? What is this going to, how are they going to give this out? And the thing that I wanted the most was something like what they did to announce Halo 2 back in 2003. And I feel like that was close. You got a good sense of staples of the show, of the game. They conveniently wove in some creative new mechanics. I see what happened now. I feel like I'm just going to talk through and like commentate on this whole thing, but I'm not getting any audio on that. Just so you know, we don't need it. That's fine. I will say there were a few like minor graphical things, but I came to find out that the ray tracing is not ready yet, and so they just left it out. So one of the biggest features of why like this game is supposed to look more beautiful than anything else isn't there.
I must be. This is a punishment, right?
But yeah, like I dug it. I want to let one of you guys talk about it for a second because I feel like I'm just going to monopolize this whole time.
I apologize. I was muted and I didn't realize it for a second.
That's probably fine.
The audio is not too loud. Is it too loud?
It's pretty loud.
Come down just a little bit.
It's actually probably be just fine even if you did it without audio. Like honestly, because we'll be talking over it anyway. To be fair, yeah.
Okay. Josh, I think you were going to go there before I stopped you. Sorry.
Oh yes, it's more Halo. That's not a bad thing. It looks like they're trying to go back to their roots a little bit from the style. Try to make almost Halo Combat Evolved 2, but in 2020, which I think that's pretty cool. People, of course, are sharing the screenshots that, oh, look at the graphics. They're not amazing or whatever. But when you watch the gameplay, I think it looks very smooth. I think it definitely looks very similar to Halo 5, but with some more bells and whistles if you look in the scenery and the draw distance. And, of course, they're trying to do... It looks like they probably played this in HDR and then converted it to SDR so we can kind of see the lighting and stuff. So
the lighting's all baked in. That's one of the misses without having the ray tracing stuff is that we're all the lighting there is simulated.
Get away from here.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm guessing like I'm trying to imagine this like on a nice TV with HDR. It's hard to look at a stream and be like, oh my god, what is it going to look like? But I think the game looks pretty much what I expected it to look like, and the gameplay looks a lot of fun. I think the new grapple mechanic, similar to like the Doom Eternal, pulling your enemies towards you and stuff, it's pretty cool. Like to keep the combat moving, I think that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that was definitely the vibe I got, especially with the grappling hook. That definitely looked like there's more. I don't know if it's to speed up the game a little bit, and I'm not saying that Halo plays slow. I'm just saying it seems like it's just made a new mechanic to add maybe something different to the game. But it was definitely. I don't know, Josh. Did you predict it, or was that? I didn't know that grappling hook was supposed to be in the game. I think I just only saw Josh had it as a prediction.
No, I've just seen it online.
There were some rumors about it.
Yeah, and then when they showed the key art yesterday, you could see it on his wrist, the grapple hook. So
now I read somewhere that it is a feature of single player, and that it'll be something. And there's another thing that he'll show off in a second, but that these will be features of single player. This is huge for me. That it's effectively open world. You've never had a map like this. So the scale of this game, they're saying, is bigger than 4 and 5 put together.
That's crazy.
Which is like, that's big.
Yeah.
So is it going? Is it going for a, I guess, complete open world feel? Like this is, you're only going to be on this planet, but it's the whole planet or something, or? Well,
so that they haven't said. I don't know that they would do an entire ring. It would be amazing if they could pull that off. I don't know what kind of like space requirement you would need to have an entire Halo ring as an environment. Man, the weight on some of the guns are just like.
Well, I watched this video and I play Halo and I'm like, well, I played nothing like this. I stick with one gun and I run out of ammo, and then I switch to pistol. And
he switches a lot. There's a lot that they showed you. There's like 10 different guns that he uses through this, and then he picks up this.
Perfect dark.
So instead of perfect dark shield, is that what you said?
Yeah, the perfect dark shield. See, that was pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah. So that gives me, if you've played Apex Legends, Pathfinder has a similar mechanic. So that feels like that motion, that feeling. I'm comfortable with it. I'm sure there are a lot of people who will be okay with it. Sorry, just a second here.
No,
that's incredible, dude. Like the draw distance is great, and this is not a finished, polished product yet.
Yeah. I think it's pretty unfair to take the game when it's in motion and try to get a screenshot and say, this game looks like crap. You know what I mean? That looks beautiful.
I saw that one picture. There's a picture out there that has some like kind of derpy looking brutes.
Gorilla Man.
The color. Yeah. The use of color in like this stretch, like I dig it. There's so much like contrast and the bright, and it's not drab. There's blues and greens and boom.
That's what you want.
See, that's what I think of when I think of Halo, because I've played all 5 or the 5 numerical ones, but it's really the earlier ones that really reminded me of those bright colors, the greens and the reds and the blues, and you see that a lot here. I think this is a new engine, right? The Slip Space engine.
Yes.
That 343 developed
this is the
themselves.
First that we've. Yeah, and that's why the game has taken as long as it has, because they had to build this from the ground up. This moment right here, watch this. He uses the grappling hook to pull the fusion coil.
Yeah, that looks fun.
It's like I said, I watched this and I feel that I've been playing Halo wrong my whole life.
It's a super well rehearsed demo. Like he knows where the enemies are before they show up.
Well,
so
and
he's turning to all the right spots, or she maybe they're turning to all the right spots. But it's awesome. Like it just feels good.
Well, and that's what you have to do with a gameplay demo. I mean, I think Doom Eternal and the Doom games did that really well as well. Like you watch someone play in their gameplay demos, you play Doom, and you're like, that's crazy insane. And with Doom, that is kind of part of the gameplay. You can do that as well, but you don't have to. And I would imagine that's the same probably here. So you don't have to go crazy, but they have to show you all the cool mechanics and features they can in as small a package as possible, knowing that it's gameplay, because that's a weird tension that these marketers have to balance with. Is there was demand for gameplay after the first, I think it was in May, if I remember correctly, that May presentation. There's a demand for gameplay. So they're like, okay, we have to put gameplay in there, but we have a certain amount of time. So normally we would just splice a bunch of cool things together and say, this is what the game feels like. But instead they're saying, no, we want to show you gameplay. We have to do that. So they had to do that. And I think they pulled it off really, really well. I'm speaking for someone who's I haven't played an Xbox system since like 2002-ish. Nothing against Xbox. If you have a PlayStation, you probably don't need both. You need one or the other most of the time. And I just happened to fall into PlayStation. And so I hadn't really played an Xbox for a long time. So I'm coming at it from a very outsider's perspective. But it feels to me like Microsoft did a lot of what they really needed to do during this presentation. They showed gameplay, a lot of gameplay for Halo specifically, and then adequate amounts for the other games, which is great. They had a bunch of exclusives. I think it counted like 11 true exclusives and then 7 launch exclusives. That's quite a few. They had dev like interviews after all of the presentation portions, and I love when they do that. I love when any of the companies do that. That's one of my favorite parts. They can really contextualize things quite a bit. And I think it just reminded Xbox fans why they're Xbox fans. They went out of their way to say a bunch. I know I'm talking over this guy's huge monologue, but hey, you guys can watch it.
No, it's fine.
But you guys are. But it's the devs went out of their way to kind of reemphasize, hey, we're returning back to like Halo, the original Halo like feel, right? And I remember my roommate in college playing a crap ton of Halo, and when they first opened up this gameplay preview, like our gameplay footage, I was like, that looks exactly like the first, in a good way. Like that looks exactly like the first world of Halo, and the first Halo, right? And that's the only one I've ever seen. But it sounds like no, Halo's actually deviated quite a bit since then, and this is a return to form, and everybody seems to really like that and appreciate that. So I feel like they've done what they needed to do here as an outsider again.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and the studio head kind of alludes to it here in this next little section, but he brings up the fact that we're not talking about multiplayer yet. Which is a huge component of the game. Some people, that is exclusively what they care about, is exactly that. So I anticipate over the next 2 months we'll get our fair share of that. They did mention 4K 60 frames per second, which pleases my eyes and also me, because it just, I'm getting used to that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anyone else is kind of been recently converted to higher frame rate gameplay yet, but it is a shocking change.
It's nice when it's there. I still am of the camp that it's not necessary. But I'll agree with that. I'm like not a graphics or person to begin with, or performance or visual person anyway, but they don't need to be there. But when you have them, you're like, okay, I get this. Now, I wonder if I'm going to change when everything starts going to like 120, if I'm going to feel the same way and be like, 60 is garbage, need 120, which will probably be a small comment I make on the Ori and the Blind Forest thing. But I wonder if it's going to maintain like that kind of trajectory. But yeah, 60 frames. I mean, once you feel it, it's like, especially with first person shooters, like it just feels so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something, I don't know, like eye strain is a big thing, especially in those type of games, because you are just like locked focused the whole game, and to be able to not have additional, like, I don't know, it's hard to put into words, and it's even harder to like explain to somebody who hasn't experienced it before.
Well, it's the whole concept of game feel. Like game feel is a term that devs use to define a lot of things that you can't put into words. It's the way Mario hops a little bit after he jumps on a Goomba, and there's like this little resistance hop, like that's game feel, and it's hard to put into words how that feels, but like you see it and you're like, there's something there about that. And I think the frame rate is part of that same conversation. It's hard to put into words, but it's part of the feel of the game. That's what makes a game a game,
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of times on a 30 frames per second game, they'll do little tricks to make that game feel better. Like Ghost of Tsushima is a good example. They use a lot of different like motion blur and smoothing to try to make it feel like you're playing in 60 frames. But once you actually bump up to 60 frames, there is that just nice smooth feel. So next gen is going to be all about that, and I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. I'm glad that's a target, at least.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to get there, or some people have to sacrifice places to get there, or at least give you. But choice is the least that I will accept, is at least the choice.
Yeah, I think that a lot of companies will do like 4K 60, and then they'll be like, here's the ray tracing 30 version. Go ahead if you want to try it out, and it looks prettier, but you're playing in 30. Yeah,
and that's fine. Fine. The people who have paid for it can get what they want.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm pleased with how Halo showed knowing again that it is, a few months out. There's still a ways to go. There were a little like pop in on artifacting and things like that, which unfortunately is there, but I can deal with it.
I'm gonna no mean to switch the subject here, but I want to talk about the first game I think that really stood out to me on this broadcast, and I want to talk about Tell Me Why. Ain't nothing but a heartbreak, but yeah, it was. It's made by Dotnan, who famously is known for Life is Strange, which the first game I'm a huge fan of. I have yet to play the second one. I know it's on Game Pass. I was just waiting for them all to be finished, and I believe they're all in there now. Just, I guess, haven't jumped on it yet. But I got a lot of the same Life is Strange vibes from this game. Well, it's expected it's the same studio, but it seems like it's a brother-sister story, and I don't know, it just, with how that first Life is Strange game is, it's basically enough to always make me want to try whatever they're making. Josh, I know it's on your list here. What were your thoughts of this one?
For one, you can tell it's the same exact engine just from the character models and the way it animates and stuff, which is fine. I am interested in the story quite a bit because the premise is that the main character is a transgender character, and I know that it's just an interesting storyline, and putting myself in a different point of view, and putting myself in somebody else's shoes, an experience I've never experienced, and try to see that point of view is going to be interesting to me. And just every time I play Life is Strange games, it gets those feels for me, so I'm excited. So I get a little teared up, emotional. I love that. So yeah.
All the Donut games have that similar aesthetic, that similar feel. You can tell what they are just by looking at them. But yeah, this one was super intriguing. I was really excited to hear what you had to say, Ryan, because I know you're a big fan of Life is Strange 1. Mm-hmm. And I really like the soundtrack they use here, Unsecret. I'm a big fan of listening to them when I work. They have a lot of like movie soundtracks and TV soundtracks and stuff. So it was cool to hear that. This is going to be released episodically, though, right? Yes. This is going to be Chapter 1.
This was the trailer for Chapter 1.
And that's at the end of August.
August 27th.
Yeah, they actually put out the first 3 chapters. The release dates, I think it's like 2 weeks apart, pretty much, for the first 3 chapters. So
so very similar to Life is Strange, right?
Yeah.
One thing I was gonna say, I was really I did think it was like a sequel, like Life is Strange 3. That's what but like I said, because I haven't played 2 yet, so I was kind of like, I hope this isn't like a reveal that someone's coming back, and I don't know. It's kind of one of those. So I'm like, well, is this Life is Strange? And then you see it was a different title. Could be the same universe. I guess you have to play it to find out. But I'm excited. I forgot it was coming out in August, and it's coming to Game Pass, right, Musty?
Everything here is coming to Game Pass.
That's what I thought.
Everything in this show, which like I did not expect that. And I think it also kind of shaped some of how this show went, because there were some things that you would normally see at like an Xbox E3 that weren't here. Some staples, really, of like gaming announcements in the summer that would be on this show and weren't there. But yeah, everything here, Game Pass day one. Some of them are timed exclusives, and I'm sure we'll address which ones those are when we get there. But yeah, that's just, it's Game Pass is almost to the point where it's like I don't know how you could turn it down.
Yeah, it's that, and leading off with that, with Phil Spencer saying like everything you're about to see is on Game Pass, you just sort of reset my mindset on the entire event, because I'm, like I said, I bought into the Xbox One and the Xbox 360. I missed this entire past generation with the Xbox One. So I didn't come in here pessimistic, but I did feel that they would have to really sell me on something in order to get me to truly sell the console. And to say that, hey, for $15 a month, you get everything you're going to see today, that's incredible. So, I think leading off with that is really cool. And I agree that it's going to continue to be this amazing until they have everybody on board. And then I have a feeling that $15 is going to become $30, $50. It's going to go up. They're not stupid, but this is a great way to get a good install base, because they sold me.
I don't mean to be Naive. I'm just trying to remember. Is it? I thought it was $10 a month, or is it 15 in Canada? Ultimate is 15, right?
So Game Pass alone, console Game Pass is $9.99 a month. Game Pass Ultimate, which right now includes Game Pass for console, Game Pass for PC, and Gold, which is the online, is 15. That is the service that's going to be adding xCloud, which is launching in September.
Yes.
So for that same $15 price. Now I have reason to believe there's going to be some changes coming from stuff that I've heard, and that, but that wasn't addressed here in this show. This show was all about games. Should we hold off on those speculation?
Yeah, well,
maybe the end. Okay.
I think we all have our specs for things why they're holding stuff back. So we'll save it for maybe predictions for the next, because there's more coming. There's more.
Oh,
coming.
So for sure, there's a ton more coming.
But Caleb, I want to start with you with Psychonauts 2 here. I know it's number 2 on this check sheet here, but because I want to talk about it. So I'm going to start with Psychonauts 2. So let me just start with the trailer going here.
Jack Black.
Yeah, Jable's got me, man.
That's right. He's been using his channel to just try to be part of every video game in the world. I think it's his highlight reel. Like he'll be playing games on his channel or whatever, and he'll just like do voices and be like, "Call me. I want you to call me. Call me. I want to do this voice for this game." So I think we'll see more of him in games.
Well, did Double Fine do Brutal Legends?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did.
Or Brutal
yeah, so they have a history there already. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was in Broken Age, right? I think at least a voice in there.
Yeah, he was the guru, the cloud guru guy.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm super excited about this game. So I was a late player to Psychonauts 1, and I played it like fairly recently, within the last like 5 years, I think 4 years maybe. And it's one of those games that had I played that earlier in my life, it would have like changed my trajectory. I probably would have like been like, I want to do video game art for a living, and I would have failed at that horribly. But the point being that like it was a really, really impressive game, big game. And so I've been waiting for Psychonauts 2 for a very long time. And my fear was that it was sort of in development hell, and it was gonna come out and it was gonna be bad, just because it's been taking so long. But when I see this kind of trailer, I realize that like it's just so much bigger game than Double Fine has ever done. Brutal Legends was big-ish. Psychonauts wasn't really big, but it was a different kind of game for them. This just feels like a way bigger game than anything they've done before. So I think it's just taking them longer. Double Fine's not a huge studio. I mean, a lot of people know the name, but they're not a big studio. So now they have some Microsoft resources. Maybe they'll get a few more developers on it so that they can push this through to the end. But it looks really cool. Psychonauts is just such a cool universe, and I've been looking so much forward to this. I might even be one of like the early Fig backers on that like Fig platform, but I can't remember. It doesn't matter anyway. I'll buy this on. I think it's coming to all consoles.
Yeah,
all
it is.
So I'll buy it even if I've already paid for it once. But it looks really cool. I'm very excited about it. So yeah, I kind of wish they would have talked about Double Fine doing something else. Like I was kind of a little bit sad that like, oh, this is the Double Fine announcement. But at the same time, this looks so cool. And it's right up my alley. This is my kind of game.
If you guys get a chance, Double Fine has a great documentary on its Broken Age. It's more a developer diary, multi-part developer diary, but it's like 10 hours, 15 hours long. And it covers everything from the inception of the ideas right through to rolling out part 1 and part 2. And just hearing Tim Schafer and his pretty small team like battle with what ideas do we keep in and what don't we, being somebody who doesn't work with a big production company like Xbox Game Studios, and they had to make so many sacrifices along the way. They had to sell their personal stuff. It's like a really personal documentary, and you really are rooting for these guys to do well. So I know there was a lot of mixed reaction when Xbox sort of picked them up as one of their Xbox Game Studios, but to see their ideas really come to fruition because of the dollar backing is huge. So I'm really excited to play this one as well.
Well, Dean, let me ask you this. Oh, of course, I lost the video for it. Apparently, got removed from YouTube here. I'll pull up the next one here, but I was going to ask you this question and have a nice lead-in trailer for you. But how do you feel about Dragon Quest 11 coming to the Xbox?
I don't think anybody needs to see the trailer. It's everywhere. I mean, this thing has been ported to everything.
Sure.
And it's, the This was announced during Keeley's pre-show. And to me, it's less about the game, Dragon Quest XI, and more about what that game represents. That is the epitome of a JRPG. And if you think back to, for me anyway, the early console wars of the 6th generation with PS2 and Xbox, one of the biggest factors for me to go with PS2 and sort of lead me down this path of PlayStation was because they had the JRPGs. They were huge in Japan, Sony being a Japanese company, that I fell in love with during the PS1 era, during the SNES era. And not to say Xbox has never had a great JRPG, but it's certainly been a lot less frequent than a Japanese console manufacturer like Sony. So I've sort of stuck with them the whole way through. And it's great to see games like Dragon Age or even Final Fantasy that we've seen come on Game Pass recently, like just those true hearty JRPGs, a genre that I think was underrepresented on the Xbox console, be filled, like this giant gap, not only for people like me who already love those games, but maybe to diehard Xbox fans who maybe haven't had the exposure they needed to really fall in love with a JRPG. So I think it's great. Again, it's not about Dragon Quest XI coming. That's great. I can play that on my phone if I want. But the fact that they're willing to put a game, Square Enix is willing to put a game like that is so time consuming and just very turn-based focus, just has those raw elements of a JRPG onto a console like Xbox is really cool.
It's probably Xbox trying to get into the Japanese market too, right? Like, I don't know if they're still not doing well in Japan, but I know historically they haven't done well. So this is a good way to get in there.
Phil's really trying.
Yeah, if they're going to do well, I mean, I'll say that they're going to have to come up with unique IPs because this isn't going to sell an Xbox there. Like I said, Dragon Quest XI is on everything. But, if they can really get the buy-in for companies like Atlas or Square, or, some of these really raw RPG developers or publishers, I think it really has a chance to open up the market to somebody like Japan.
Well, it's about sparking that little bit of interest,
exactly.
So that the other things, because it's possible that there's things that the Japanese market finds interesting about Xbox games, but because this chunk that they absolutely must have in their gaming library and the experiences that they want doesn't exist, it's a expensive cost of entry for those, right? It's like, I might be interested in Crimson Skies, let's just say that, right? Like, that's only available over here, but now I have to spend the entire, I have to buy into this ecosystem on top of the one that I already have. So now it's like, well, maybe not Dragon Quest as an example, but if we get some other things from Square and we get some other things like you said from like Atlas, then all of a sudden it's like, well, I could do this other thing I like and get the things that I know that I absolutely need in this space.
Do you think we'll get like a blue? What's the Dragon Quest enemy? The blue
dragon.
The little blob thing.
The slime controller.
Slime. You think we'll get a slime controller for Xbox?
That'd be amazing.
A good thing I want to point out, just while we're on this topic, is if you think about it, almost all Square's like main lineup of JRPGs are almost, not all of them, but a lot of the heavy hitters are on Xbox Game Pass now. You got all the Kingdom Hearts games and almost all the Final Fantasies, and then of course Dragon Quest now. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. Really happy with that.
It's a good avenue to have open.
Speaking of Square, that wasn't the only Square game announced on the pre-show. You also had Balan. Is it Balan Wonderworld?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, Dean, I know I see this on your list here.
Yeah, like this might be this again another one that was revealed in Keeley's pre-show. This might be my favorite game of the show, and not to undermine everything else, but this appeals to me so much. So we saw Yuji Horii, Yuji Naka. Sorry, Yuji Naka come up, who's traditionally from Sega. He's working for Square right now, and he's putting together this Knights style action RPG 3D platformer game you essentially go through these colorful worlds. There's 80 different costumes for you to get, and each costume represents like different play styles, different mechanics. You can be a spider, a pumpkin, a wolf, a fire hydrant, and they not only change your attacks but how you traverse the world. And I think that's just a really cool mechanic. So I'm hoping that you don't have to collect all of the costumes to progress, but that if you go out of your way to collect all 80 costumes, you can open up new areas of the world, new secret levels and collectibles. I hope it's just like a really robust game like that. But I just love how it looked. This really speaks to me, and it's sort of a musical. Music plays a big part in it. So
looks like a 3D Shantae with like those mechanics, like changing costumes, outfits to progress, Metroidvania-ish in a way.
Yeah. So it it has an emotional undertones where when people reach these crossroads in their life of depression or disappointment or sadness, they're sort of transported to this world. And I don't know, I'm really looking forward to see sort of a whimsical take on that with a very Japanese style, but colorful and Square Enix. And yeah, this looks awesome to me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love my 3D platformers, and I'm glad to start seeing like a resurgence slowly coming back of 3D platformers. So I don't know, it looks interesting. It's definitely on my radar. Josh, I know you have something to say about this.
I was getting Hat in Time vibes from it. So when I first saw the graphics, but of course it's way more Japanese than that. But I love a good collectathon 3D platformer, and knowing that where it's coming from and who's developing it and the style, it's kind of just it's at least on the top 3 of things I saw today. Just very exciting. I was surprised. I mean, I guess I'm not too surprised that it wasn't in the main show. I don't think it's coming to Game Pass. I think if it was coming to Game Pass, I think it would have been in the main show probably. But yeah,
well, it might. I bet it will come to Game Pass. Just probably not day one. Give it a couple months. It'll be there. I got a funny feeling it'll be there.
Yeah, but I'm pretty excited to check it out. I'm day one on that for sure. It's good.
Yeah, it's Ballon Company. It's an entirely new studio that Square Enix has spun up exclusively for this. So it's exciting to see what they pump out as their first game.
I appreciate the fact that, and this isn't the only example of this, but like not everything on the Xbox has to be so dour.
Yep.
Right. Like we can have some games that don't take themselves too seriously, or that have bright, colorful, cheery overtones. Psychonauts is one that had the like psychedelic deal to it with Jack Black, and I think we can all appreciate the humor in that. There's a couple others which we'll get to that are just like stunningly colorful and beautiful, and it's not all grays and browns.
That was the first thought that crossed my mind mostly when I saw this, when they stepped out into that like super colorful world, that first one that they went to. I said, this does not feel like an Xbox game. Like if this is a direction that Xbox is going for some of its games, I could really buy into that.
They just need to open. I mean, you got to open the portfolio, or at least allow the portfolio to be open to these ideas.
Right.
And the indie scene has been providing a lot of that. But then the games that first party has done, like Ori, like are beautiful and colorful, but they're so somber that it's like it's not. It can be a real downer sometimes. But yeah, it's a good direction to be open to, and I think it. Clearly, the people on the pre-show were like, "Shut this down. I'm good. We're leaving." And I was like, "Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it."
We got 2 Obsidian games today. I don't see anyone that have this on their checkoff list, but I'm going to show it.
I'll take it.
Okay. I'm gonna start with Grounded first, if that's what you want.
Well, no, do them in order.
Okay, so Grounded was first. They said, okay, what?
No.
Outer Worlds.
Outer Worlds was first.
My mistake. Go ahead, speak.
Technically, that was Private Division. Technically.
When I saw that, because I didn't see Obsidian anywhere, I was like, this is such a ripoff of Outer Worlds.
Obsidian and Private Division work together on Outer Worlds, and I think this DLC is like Private Division owning it and doing most of it. Is what I understand. But this is really interesting. I'll jump right in because this was on my list. But this one was really interesting to me because this, I think, shows better than anything else the true difference between like a current gen and next gen sort of experience. Now, I assume a lot of the footage we're seeing here is some of it's from the next gen. I think it's also coming out on current gen because it comes out in September or something, so it has to be on current gen, and it's coming out to all platforms as well. But the reason why I like this is because there are certain elements of this game, especially like in the cutscenes, where they look a lot better. Not these examples right here, but the cutscenes specifically look a lot better than they did in the original base game. And I'm wondering then if it's showing like the true difference between, okay, here's a game that is essentially the same skeleton, the same bits and pieces, but here's what it looks like now, and here's what it could look like on next gen. And I like that, being able to see those side by side, because that's, I think, really going to be a good showcase. And this particular streamer watching right now just doesn't impress me the way that it did when I first watched it. So maybe I'm wrong on all of this. Maybe this is all still current gen stuff. But I remember watching it in the actual like live presentation. I was like, holy crap, this looks amazing. And so it still could. Maybe my connection is just kind of bad right now. But I think it's going to show us, like, I don't know, if they're building the DLC using any sort of next gen stuff, which I think, if I remember correctly, Xbox, they said at the beginning, like, these were all like Xbox Series X sort of targeted type visuals and stuff that we're seeing. So I imagine that it's, we're seeing these Xbox visuals, these nice visuals on this version, and we can compare that directly to Journey to the Savage Planet on the current generation and see some really interesting things there. I took way longer to explain that than I needed to, but that's what I got from that. And I'm really excited. The Journey to the Savage Planet the Outer Worlds. I keep saying Journey to the Savage Planet. The Outer Worlds was just an amazing game that, like, I'm glad it got all the accolades that it did, but if you haven't played it, you need to, because it's so good. So,
is this the first DLC pack from them too?
Yep. So hopefully they've been spending a lot of time on it, because it seems weird that they haven't had one yet, but
because that was last summer, right?
Yes, I think so. Late. It was pretty late though. Yeah, it was. I think maybe October, November, something like that. So.
And this is coming out in like September, October, right?
September 9th, if I go back here.
Yeah.
But Obsidian game number 2 we got here. It was Grounded. So this was another.
I appreciate this launch trailer because
it's funny as heck.
It's like an honest trailer, right?
I appreciate them being self-aware.
That was so funny.
It was good. I appreciate the fact that they understand that this team of 14, because it's a very small team that put this game together. The building that they're showing there through the like half-hour beta demo that I got to try, like, nowhere I'd never even built a structure, and like they're building like 3-story houses. I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, this game's going to be a ton of fun and freaky for those who don't like spiders.
It's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids vibes.
Exactly the vibe.
Right? Did you catch the Battletoads action figure coming up?
It's coming.
Right.
Yeah.
It's coming up. I know it is. Maybe it's not.
There
it is.
The only reference to Battletoads all day.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
It's coming.
But yeah, like I don't know, this could be exciting. Like I've tried some survival games, and the prospect of a cooperative Honey, I Shrunk the Kids simulator is cool. And it comes out next week on Game Pass.
This one I'm definitely going to check out. I do love myself a survival game. It depends on the game, but like you said, the lightheartedness of it's kind of selling me. Looks fun.
Yeah, I think it was a good lead into what else they had to show, which kind of, you kind of saw the, like, here's the kind of Obsidian thing. I guess I didn't really understand the combination between Private Division and Obsidian, but then this, like, was like, oh wait, 3 things from Obsidian. This trailer, which again is super early, in production, but I'm so glad they showed this. Like, this was of games that were shown in this, I didn't know the name of this, and this was a pleasing surprise, although I had heard that something was potentially coming. But
Did you think it was Lord of the Rings? Because I couldn't, like, this part right here.
The sword?
This was like Mines of Moria for me. Like, okay, that's from the first one, when the sword lit up like Sting.
Well, the sword itself looks like Gandalf's sword. That hilt
right.
is straight up Glamdring.
Yeah. And then there's like the Balrog, like coming out of that cave. Like I felt like this was Lord of the Rings.
My mind. Like, I was gonna be like, that would have. I may have had to change my pants if that had happened.
Well, they haven't announced a release date, and names can change, and it could be a Lord of the Rings thing, and they're saying that it's set in the Pillars of Eternity universe.
Okay.
So I think the ship has sailed to the Grey Havens.
Well, and that was probably also very much inspired by Lord of the Rings anyway. Pillars,
I could see that.
Eternity. So yeah.
Yeah. So, but I like that was a very pleasant surprise. Like I thought that was one of the big highlights of the show, despite being a 1-minute cinematic trailer. You at least got the feel of like they're going for a Skyrim like, which I mean that game is 9 years old. Like by the time this comes out, it will be at least 10 years old. Like we deserve another Elder Scrolls like.
If people stopped buying it, they'd make one faster. But people keep buying it.
That's true. This is true. But yeah, I thought I'm excited. I don't know about the name, but
yeah, it's kind of generic.
Just be a title name, for now.
Yeah.
And they did say that on the show that when Xbox went to them and asked Obsidian, what's the game you want to make? They said this was the game you want to make. So
I thought that was a hugely important marketing beat, especially for Microsoft to sort of solidify itself with these acquisitions, because it's common in the world of publishers to acquire a developer and then break them apart, throw them on projects they don't want to be a part of. EA does it all the time. And it's just become, anytime there's an acquisition, it's not, that's cool. It's usually, damn it, now they're going to suck. So I think it was really cool.
Farm out the good guys.
Exactly. And so I think it was really cool. Like when they first announced the Double Fine acquisition back in the actual presentation, not today, when Tim Schafer came out and he's like, no, this is a good thing. Like, I like this. This is great. And you could tell he was genuine.
And money.
And money. And you could tell in this situation here, it seemed really genuine. And Microsoft is going out of its way to say, we went to them and said, what do you want to make? We have money. What do you want to make? We bought you for a reason. We bought you because you're good. We want to help make you better. As opposed to the EA model of, we bought you because you have some IPs we want, and we're going to just throw you on some bull crap that you're not going to be good at making. So it was really important that they did hit those beats, and they reemphasized these studios are still their own thing. Or they're still able to do their own thing. They're able to, and that's really good, especially as someone who, again, is outside the Xbox ecosphere. I love seeing a company as big as Xbox, say like, we respect these now first party studios that we purchased. We bought them for a reason. So my hope is that that'll play out. I hope there's no Kotaku, although Kotaku's kind of whatever it is now, but I hope there's no Jason Schreier specifically like exposés later on to be like, oh, that was bull crap. Xbox just ran him into the ground or whatever. I don't know. That won't happen, but I don't want that to happen.
Let's watch the game. Let's watch a few of these succeed. I think that's kind of the big hinging point, right? Like if they can succeed, then that's clearly true. That approach works. If these games don't, then maybe carte blanche is not the way to
right. And if they don't, and I'm of the belief too, and this is with any company, like if something doesn't succeed as a for-profit company, you should do something about that. You can't keep bleeding money. So if they don't succeed, either marketing is responsible, and they didn't market it well, which as gamers we know that happens a lot, where there's a really good game that just doesn't get marketed, or if these get marketed like crazy and they still don't succeed. Yeah, maybe it just wasn't a very good idea. So hopefully people will be rational. People are rational, right? So hopefully people will be rational. And if these games do fail, they'll say, well, I don't know. I'm stretching. People won't do that. People are going to hate Microsoft.
Yeah.
I think one of the big points with this, and with this being a Pillars of Eternity game, to be totally honest with you, I couldn't even tell you how Pillars of Eternity plays because I never looked it up. Like I have just no idea how that plays. But if this opens up that universe to people who aren't inclined to go even find out how Pillars of Eternity plays, then that's a win, and it helps like direct people into their own backlog or their own like back catalog. Sorry.
It's like Fallout 3 did for the earlier Fallout games. Because I think Pillars of Eternity, aren't they like isometric-y kind of games or no? Am I way off on that? Does anybody know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, same kind of thing. It like got people
Baldur's
invested in the whole
Gate
Fallout
kind of
universe.
Inspired.
Baldur's Gate, similar, yes.
Okay. Okay.
And I want to say about this game is this game is what told me to, when I watched the trailer, I was like, all right, I need to have a Series X before this comes out. So that's a good thing. And the thing I did notice about their little thing, they were very clear with what consoles each of these games were going to be at the bottom. If it said Xbox Series X only, okay, that's probably going to be a year or two out because that's going to be exclusive, and it'll say Xbox One if it comes on the Xbox One. So I'm like, all right, so by the time this game comes out, I have to have a Series X because I have to play it Avowed, and I was like, hell yeah. So,
although here's a question for Musty, the Xbox guy. Are all Xbox, and this is again me speaking from ignorance, are all releases moving forward going to play on the current generation system just at a lower quality, or is there a cutoff point at some point in the future?
They have not given a hard date. However, they said that support for current generation, all the way back to the VCR looking one, will continue for at least, they said potentially a year or two from the first party. Which again, Josh, to your point, gives a lot of timeline potential when you look at some of the games, because there are a number of games that don't mention Xbox One at all. And if that is the case, then that just tells me that, like bingo, that game is not coming out for at least a year, maybe two, maybe further.
But
some of these games,
still like, hell yeah.
But have they?
Yeah.
Have they confirmed though that there is a cutoff though? Like that's the thing that me as an outsider, I'm not sure what it is, but is there a cutoff when they're like, from this point moving forward, some of these titles will only play on the Series X and you can't play them on previous console generations?
I think any of these that are like Halo Infinite as an example will play on both for, as far as I understand, forever.
Well, I mean games coming out in the future. Like if a game comes out 2 years from now, is it on the current generation of console, or is it only on Xbox? Like I know Halo because it's coming out now and they'll support it or whatever, but I'm talking about like games that come out during the Xbox Series X life cycle, even at the end of the life cycle. Are those supposed to be playing on the current console as well? So essentially you don't have a reason to buy an Xbox Series X if you're not like into, high frame rates and visuals and stuff, or is there at some point an inevitable cutoff? And they've said as much, like at one point
they have said that at some point the mandate to have them play on both, which again is really a first party mandate because they can't force a third party to do that. But that at some point, yes, they will have to stop supporting with new releases, stop supporting the old system. I mean, it's the cell phone model is really what they're trying to get to where like at some point they'll roll off maybe the original model Xbox One, and maybe it'll only be the S and the 1S and the 1X, and then maybe at some point those spin off and suddenly those won't be supported. And I think I think at this point, right, like you can get an iPhone that still works back to like the 6S, I think still works. But with every OS update, you knock another one off, right? It just kind of like slowly tapers those away. There will be a point, and there are already third-party games that sounds like they aren't going to support the Xbox One because of potential limitations. Either there's design that they've done that needs the SSD tech to be able to pull off. I don't think anyone is designing for ray tracing, but like those are the things that the thing about graphics is that all those things, even in the PC eco space, can be scaled back.
Right.
So
But
I think from a design standpoint, it like just being able to do the graphics and saying, okay, well, here just cap it at 1080, 60, and then we'll leave that version for the 1X right now or the 1S right now, and then you can amp up the things on the other one. I don't think I'm answering your question though.
Well, let me ask it this way. This will be the last dumb guy question I ask, and then we can definitely move on with the most important stuff. I couldn't walk out to a store and buy a used Xbox 360 and expect that to play Halo Infinite.
Correct.
Like that's kind of the. It seems obvious, but that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like there is a point at which these games are just simply not going to be functional on older equipment, I guess is what I'm getting at. So, and that's what I understood, but I just had never. I'm outsider looking in. So thank you, Mustang.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rule it out. Sorry,
my
little prediction is I wouldn't rule it out not playing on the 1X or just the Xbox One because of Project xCloud, right? I don't know if that's design on it. I'm just saying I wouldn't rule it out for that reason alone.
Streaming I think would be a different conversation.
Point is that eventually you'll get Series X games that are streamable to an old console that then allows you to feed xCloud through it. But I think the big point I was trying to make is that any game that they're saying right now is available on Xbox One, I don't think will lose Xbox One functionality down the road. But at some point, they are just going to stop making games that are available on both.
Yeah.
But they're trying to straddle that divide because this is an example that I had from when I went from the 360 generation into the Xbox One generation. Is like, of my group of friends, I was one of the very few who decided to make the leap at all. And so then all of a sudden it was like, well, our online ecosystem was kind of fractured from that one. Whereas like now these two can kind of coexist in one big bubble, and PC too. Like they're trying to make it so that just you can make that decision across whatever device that you have. And there may be more devices, spoiler for August, that may even be more suitable for people who don't need the $500 tower of power. You know, like there may be other options out there as well. We'll save that for the end.
That's what I want. I want a dongle. But yes,
a dongle or
that's what I want.
Just something you just want to just plug it in the back so I don't just see it.
That's what.
Hook up.
Well, not even so I don't see it. It'll be, I don't know. Anyway, we'll keep
giant dongle hanging out the back of your.
No, like I didn't want to mention Stadia, but I'm saying like similar to like a Chromecast, like something simple, you know.
Yeah,
that like that's ideally. But again, we could save that for predictions. Sorry. Thank you for entertaining my dumb guy questions. I appreciate it.
No, these are good because honestly, like I've been plugging myself into the whole like the last like month. I've been like absorbing this every opportunity I can get. So if there's questions that I can help like dispel myths about, I will do that to the best of my ability. But yeah, so some of these things are marketing speak, and some of these things are still yet to be determined. But I have a feeling that at least for a year, I'm going to say a year, I hope, that they'll have things that have dual releases, and you just basically get the better version of whatever console you're playing on, which I think is great for someone like me, because I'm going to hang on to my 1X. And if I do get a Series X or whatever, then I could play the same. Like in theory, I should be able to cloud save from either console to the same. So I should be able to play down here one night or play upstairs another night, and get whatever visual experience is suitable for that console. Like that would be awesome to me. That's what I want, especially with all the Game Pass stuff, because all of that stuff is going to exist in both ecosystems.
You know,
as far as I understand,
this all digital world is kind of scary, right? It's kind of spooky, kind of like the next game I want to talk about, which is the Medium. This game, I know it was revealed at the last Xbox show. It's exclusive, if I remember correctly.
Launch exclusive. Yeah.
It's launch exclusive. Perfect.
Yeah, it's a timed exclusive. It
But
appears.
It even more Silent Hill vibes on this one, where I even questioned if this was a Silent Hill game again while watching the trailer live.
It all starts.
It wasn't until the one cut in the trailer where it splits the world in half again, where I'm like, oh, it's that other game that we saw earlier. But this one had much. I think it had some gameplay. This one in this trailer, if I remember correctly.
I had yes written. Some of the stuff looked like gameplay, but it was kind of difficult to determine, which could be a good or a bad thing.
I
think they were trying to convey the the thing that this game is doing. They're saying is patented and like doesn't exist anywhere else. I don't know that I buy that, but
even walks into a diner here. I'm like in the streets right here, very much like Silent Hill without a fog, but still the same kind of vibes I'm getting.
I mean, we've seen a lot of this mechanic sort of used in other games, even games that are coming out now. Like we have that Crystales or Crystalis one where sort of the left side of the screen is the past and the right side of the screen is the future. And you're sort of traversing around, and as you pass NPCs, they're a child on this side of the screen, but if you run past them, they become like an old person, or they just disappear because they died. There was a game on the PS2, The Plan, which had 3 screens, and you controlled sort of 3 different characters by holding the trigger buttons or just not. And you had to like perform heists and stuff. So even A Way Out, I know that's multiplayer, but it's sort of a similar mechanic. So I mean, sure, they have it patented, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the difference here is it's similar. So this was, I think, Microsoft's what's the word I'm looking for? It's their required what I'm looking for a word. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This is the thing that they had to answer to Ratchet and Clank. Essentially, they had to show what an SSD can do. Mm-hmm. So when PlayStation had the Ratchet and Clank, it was showing, hey, you can traverse between these real world environments at pretty quick pace. That's what this is kind of showing. I think the difference between what this is doing and then the examples you mentioned, Dean, is the fidelity of this is so much greater, and it's probably pretty real time. Like you could probably at any point in the entire game jump immediately into the entire different scenario, the different world. Whereas I'm guessing, I'm not familiar with the games you'd mentioned, but I'm guessing just based on my knowledge of tech and stuff, it was probably limited to certain times or certain areas, or the fidelity was just not quite to the degree that the fidelity is of here. So it's, I think I mentioned in the last kind of chat hangout thing we had, but it operates in the same way that like multiplayer games operate, and that the system is literally creating 2 instances of the game when you're playing 2-player split screen. Anyway, it's creating 2 instances, which is why in old multiplayer games, the levels had really bad fidelity. The multiplayer maps had really bad fidelity. Everything was enclosed. It's because it's literally having to run the game twice. And so everything is cut in half. Whereas now we're not limited to necessarily computation. We have an SSD, so you can run 2 really high res games essentially at the exact same time, which allows you to do cool stuff like this. So I think Xbox had to have this in there, and it looks like a cool game too. So it's not like they just threw it in there because they had to, but I think they had to answer and say, we can do what PlayStation's doing with the SSD too. Like, look, we can do it too. So, which is important for them to do. So I think that's probably what they were doing here, and it looks awesome. I think it looks really fun. Or
it
not
does
fun,
look
maybe.
Good. So what else does Bloober Team do? Like,
so
this is Akira Yamaoka, right? The same composer as Silent Hill, but that's it,
true.
Right?
That's true. Bloober Team did Blair Witch, which was the one that they announced last year at E3, and then came out last August, I think.
Okay.
And then they've done one other before that, and it's escaping me right now. But I know there are some out there who are way into the horror genre who are like, this is like in the absence of getting a new Silent Hill, like this is like hitting that kind of feel for them.
Bloober Team did Layers of Fear and Observer.
Okay, yeah. So I wasn't sure if it was part of the Silent Hill team that had spun up their own studio, or if they've done stuff in the past. But it sounds like they dipped their toe in the horror genre already, so it's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Interesting that it says it only says Series X on this one.
Yeah, because the function there of it them being able to swap it in real time to the 2 different worlds is not feasible with old hard drive tech.
HDD, yeah.
Yeah.
And we got no launch date, so that's also another clue that it is probably just a later, a later release.
I don't know. I feel like this one's not as far away, but again, they didn't even try to give like a year, did they?
Yeah, they didn't even give a year. They gave nothing. So
Okay.
You figure they'd want to mention it, because if you look at the actual confirmed dates, it's relatively few for 2020.
Mhm.
So you feel like they would definitely want to promote that, but I could be wrong.
And this was one that they showed in May, so like they've at least this wasn't the first kind of
Right.
time out in the sun, but
this was the first. Oh, sorry, I totally interrupted you. Sorry.
I don't know where my thought was going. So
good, succeeded. No, I was just going to say it's interesting because they did talk about it in May, but at May they didn't show, I don't think anyway, the cool like SSD stuff. So imagine if they had done that in May and got out ahead of PlayStation 5 when it comes to the whole dual world thing. That could have been a really strong talking point. I wonder why they didn't do that, or maybe they just have it ready. It's possible.
Yeah, the May presentation there were a number of missed opportunities, I think, in the May May presentation. But yeah, this was certainly one of them. Or that I don't know if it was one of them, but they could have totally leveraged that. Yes, I agree.
You know what? I don't think that's any gunk. But you know what it is? It's a game called The Gunk. From the creators of SteamWorld.
We gave you so much time to think of a transition, Ryan, and that's what you give us.
I'm just nailing, right?
Go ahead, Dean.
No, I love the idea of this game. I think somebody else had it written down. So all I'll say is, it reminds me of like a Mario Sunshine mixed with like a Luigi's Mansion, like a mixture of both, right? You're sucking up goop in an alien world. And I'm a huge fan of SteamWorld. Caleb, I know you liked SteamWorld Dig, not so much Heist, but you liked
Heist was the only one I didn't like. I've loved all of their other games, yeah.
So I don't know. I'm super intrigued. I was worried that when I saw the big mech hand that it was going to be like a brawler, and we've already seen that with one of the indie demos with the rabbit and the big mech hand. I was like, oh no, they did the same mechanic for 2 games, but this actually looks way cooler.
Yeah, what?
It's another 3D platformer, which gets me excited.
Yeah. I love 3D platformers, man, and especially from Image and Form. So if anybody here or watching or whatever has not played the SteamWorld games, any of the SteamWorld games, really, Dig 2, Heist, Hand of Gilgamesh, which was their most recent one, and then they had a tower defense game even before that. I can't remember what it was called exactly, but that was their first game, a tower defense game. But this team, Image and Form, every single one of their games is like a different genre, essentially, except for the 2 SteamWorld Dig games. And they're so capable with every single one of those genres. The one thing that I do, and they've built such a great universe with these games too. Like it's sort of a shared universe with all of the games. You play as, it's like a robot culture, but it's cartoony, and so there's a lot of robot puns, which is really cool. But everything just is built around these robot mechanics and everything, which is really cool. Hand of Gilgamesh, it's just funny. So they've proven themselves to create a really cool universe, which I love. As soon as I saw this was by Image and Form, I'm like, I'm already on board. And then when they showed it to be a 3D game, I was like, wait a second. None of their games have been 3D or even close to it. They all been very, very much 2D. I'm a little worried. I'm a little cautious, a little skeptical. But they have proven themselves to be great game makers, so I'm willing to entertain. Like I feel like they wouldn't jump into a 3D environment unless they were comfortable doing that. And so I'm excited to see what they're doing. When I first saw the hand, I almost thought like this was a Biomutant, like they were gonna like tell us more about Biomutant. I was like, fine, I've been waiting for so long to see more about that game. I didn't know Image and Form was doing that game. I'm an idiot. I saw that, but the hand is really cool because it does, I think, tie into maybe the SteamWorld Dig universe, and that there is some sort of robotic universe thing there. I'm thinking this might be sort of a 3D SteamWorld Diggy kind of game, and that there's going to be, pardon the pun, much deeper elements to it than you probably think. Because that first teaser was just very much it looked like I'm going to suck up this gunk and move along.
I couldn't tell if it was like a puzzle platformer or action platformer. Like you saw an encounter, but you didn't see like, do you fight it?
They've never done like real-time action necessarily. They've done the SteamWorld Dig games, but those are more like platform action-y. It's not like intense. But if they're going all 3D, then maybe they are also going like combat heavy, like they're going to figure something out. My guess is it's going to be puzzle, probably a lot of puzzling. They do puzzling really, really well.
Yeah.
So I'd be actually disappointed if they didn't have a puzzle element. So I'm hoping it's a 3D puzzle platformer that just plays really great. That's my hope. And this one, I'm really looking forward to. This is actually one, it's a launch exclusive. If it wasn't a launch exclusive, if it was just an Xbox exclusive, this might be one that I'm like, this and Hellblade, those are the two games that I might have to buy an Xbox for. But it's a launch exclusive, so I could save some money.
You guys want
I wanted to make a comment about. I appreciate how they weave gameplay into this trailer.
Yeah.
Right, like in a year where everyone's like, I'm tired of cinematics, I'm tired of like this. Psychonauts did it too. Like it's subtle. Like I don't need a lot, but like give me a feel of like what does it look like to just walk down this path, because I'm going to be walking down paths. And they did a nice job with that.
One thing I wish they would do more of, and this goes for PlayStation and Xbox and Nintendo probably too, is I wish they would make it more obvious what's gameplay and what's not. Even if it's just showing the HUD elements.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that you can remove you from the immersion when it's come to watching it, but like I just want to know when that changeover is. And I think that would go so long or so far. But yeah.
Well, I just heard you guys talking about not wanting to see cinematics. Too bad we're getting a cinematics trailer here because I want to talk about Everwild. So this was made by Rare. Now, the Rare of old is no longer there, but this was a beautiful game. And it gives me kind of, I don't want to say like an indie vibe, but it definitely seems like it's going to be a nice, relaxing, I don't know, 5 to 6 hour games just from the view of it. And I like these games because not everything.
Sure about that? You think you think this is gonna be a 5 or 6 hour game?
Yeah, I think it's just gonna be a nice, relaxing 5 to 6 hour game. Could be shorter.
Open world.
I wish I knew what this game was.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I wish I knew what this game was. That's all I'm gonna say right now. But it's
stunning.
It is beautiful. Yeah, this is like super Princess Mononoke, like Miyazaki vibes, and I like the sort of like maybe not Aboriginal, but like tribal mythology type thing with like shamans and animal gods, and I don't know.
I really don't like that character design. That dog thing looks scared.
Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. It looks like he's scared. It looks like he's pulling that tree against his own will, and I don't like that.
Here comes the fish.
This has grossed me out right here. Oh my god, that's so gross.
Yeah, but this like screams Miyazaki, doesn't it? Like Studio Ghibli in like a more artsy form.
Ugh, that just grossed me out. Are you guys familiar with the tryptophobia?
Yeah,
I'll send you
the holes.
Yeah, that's what that like. I have that terrible. Like I can't look at those images. And when I saw that, I was like, oh god, I'm gonna vomit. Like it was too close. So
like
anyway.
The back of a cell phone right there. Is that a problem?
No, like a pomegranate, like inside of a pomegranate, kind of like where everything is perfectly symmetrical and very smooth edge shaped circles, and like it grosses me out. And there's a toad that gives birth out its back. You could like look at this, and that's what that reminded me of. And so okay.
But you're right, Musty. Like we see Louise come up at the end of this, and you're thinking, oh, she's going to show us like what this game is or explain a little bit more, and she just ended up thanking everybody for the support. So I think everybody's just dying to know like what is this game?
Like is it a the first vibe when I saw it last year was like they are totally taking Breath of the Wild inspirations here. Like sure. I was totally seeing like Rare's take on Breath of the Wild in this art style. Co-op. And because there's 4 characters, but I don't know, is that a team and you pick one? Is that you can swap between the all 4 of them? Is it a co-op deal? Because I feel like Rare has found immense amounts of success with Sea of Thieves 2 years later. And now it's like, well, can we hit another genre with a cooperative style game that maybe is in an entirely different has an entirely different feel to it, and maybe that's the case. But yeah, anything like exploration, like give us a give us a direction just a little bit.
This is another Avowed. This is another Avowed. Just like, here's a little teaser. What is this? This sets a tone.
I feel like I know more about Avowed than I do this, though.
Yeah, that's true, because you saw the first person mode.
He did the in Avowed, he like ruined in the air and then like grabbed it and like.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
I feel like I know what that is.
What genre it is? Yeah.
I'm still like,
what's Rare's most recent game?
Sea of Thieves.
And that's a few years. I mean, they're from what I understand, they're updating it, and so it's like a live game.
Yeah, it's got more players now than it has at any point because it released on Steam, and now it's got like 15 million players.
So has has that gone on long enough that people are like, what's Rare working on next? Or is it like it's been updated often enough that people are like, Rare doesn't need to work on anything, they're doing this, you know?
Well, they announced this last year, so people have known that this is like, this got announced at X019, which is like Xbox's equivalent to what the PlayStation experience was. And there will be another one, I think, in September, but it's going to be entirely online, unlike last year's. But they teased it, but it looked like the Gods and Monsters trailer, the Ubisoft one from last year, and it looked like Breath of the Wild. Honestly, is what my initial take was from it. At that point, Sea of Thieves wasn't hitting as hard as it is now, because they kind of found their cadence and their audience, and then put it on PC, and all of a sudden people are like, "Gimme!" So I don't know that there's ever the mindset of like Rare needs to do something else because this is dead in the water. But I'm glad that they've got something.
I get it.
I really wasn't holding for effect there. I wasn't, I promise. But
they're sitting on Battletoads as well, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, they've got a bit in the can.
Yeah, and I have some questions about Battletoads.
Yeah, me too. But
prediction. Anyways, you know what? Another game I don't want to say I got the same kind of vibes, and there's a giant fly here. But there's
Get it!
I know No, I don't want to do it for animal cruelty. Anyways, no, this was another cinematic trailer, but it's another one that stood out to me because of how it looked. And just started. It's for As Dusk Falls. I'll start the trailer here. But this looks like another, I guess, because I guess I just get the same kind of vibes that it's maybe another episodic game, and that could be 100% wrong. But I just get kind of those kind of vibes with maybe just these cuts, basically, where you don't see really anyone moving. It's like it's just being told as a story. I don't know if anyone else gets this kind of vibes, but I mean,
yeah, I had this one written down as one of them that I wanted to talk about, and for a couple of reasons. One, this is the first game by a studio that was created by an ex-Quantic Dreams dev. They're basically the creative. I have it written down here. The creative director, Caroline Marshall. She was the lead game designer on Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, and so she kind of created this own studio. This studio called Internal Nights, I think. Interior Night. Thank you. And so I pulled it out for that reason, because I know like there's some proven pedigree here, even though it's a first game, but it also looks incredibly weird. Now, I'm not going to say I think it looks good. Honestly, it does look like the kind of game I would like, but I don't necessarily think it looks good or innovative. I think a lot of times we will give a minimal art style credit for being minimal, and that's artistic enough. In this particular case, I actually think it looks a little lazy to me, but and that's assuming that the gameplay is what we're seeing there, where it's sort of a slideshow transition-y kind of thing with some minimal animation, especially like in the facial and the hair and stuff. If that's kind of what the game is, then it to me it feels a little lazy, but at the same time there's a pedigree there for storytelling, which I really appreciate. It looks like this person, the person who was the creative designer on those previous games, she must have not liked something at Quantic Dreams. Like there was something she wasn't like getting out of that, and so she went somewhere else. My hope is that maybe she was like seeing Quantic Dreams do something that was like not quite as grounded as she wanted. So maybe this is going to be sort of your another Dontnod type studio. And I think the world could do with more Dontnod studios. So I'm cool with that if that's the direction that this is kind of going. I'm interested. This definitely isn't like a this is the reason you buy an Xbox kind of thing. But it's definitely one of those things. If you already have an Xbox, like it could be really cool. Pay attention to it.
Yeah, it's gonna depend on the story for me. Like the art style didn't sell me. It looked like a DS game. Like if you ever played Hotel Dusk, reminds me just like something like that. But if the story is good, like I like the idea of sort of rural America, 30-year gap between you play as the kid and then you play as the adult and some sort of murder mystery or something there. But it really has to appeal to me from a narrative perspective because graphics wise, it looks like a motion comic.
I think when I was looking at it, I didn't pay any attention to the story. Like anything that was said, I was so fixated on the visual for it and the fact that like there's this this layering of like there's lights here and the lights affect the stuff behind, like it's a very intentional kind of way of lighting simulated 2D images, and if this is a new direction that they're going to take, I think that's interesting. Whether it's in this story, which again I know nothing about, although I know that there's a guy that holds a sawed-off shotgun at some point.
Well, it is Xbox, Musty. I mean,
that's right, guns and cars, right?
Guns and
what
cars.
the hell, man? But it's intriguing. It's if eventually it turns into a Quantic Dream kind of relationship between Xbox and the studio, and they continue to build, like, that's a great start. Diversity in offerings, I think, is critical. So
speaking of diversity, it's got a ginger guy with a beard.
There you go.
You don't see that often in games.
Only here on this particular broadcast. So
that's right.
Yeah.
I don't have a good transition to talk about Hellblade.
We gave you 5 minutes. Okay.
So, yeah,
I wanted to bring up Hellblade, but the thing is, they didn't give us even a real trailer here to show.
So that's why I put it on my list.
In that case, go ahead and talk. I'm going to show Forza in the background.
Show Forza.
That was a world premiere, and
I have some thoughts about Forza too. But let me talk about.
Let me just first. Actually, let's just briefly mention Forza here because
Sure.
I was actually like Caleb watching Jeff Keighley talk with the developers after the show to a point to I got called away to go.
I entirely missed that. Okay.
But when I was watching this, they said, this was a game that's going to be a little bit whiles away, but they're just giving us a premiere. So let me just pull up Forza here, the show here, because
he's adorable, Westy.
Yeah, he's a star. So, but no, yeah, it was definitely this was all in engine. But they said it's clearly not going to be one of their yearly Forza releases. It was going to be one that's in development a few years away, as they're talking on the show. They wanted to give a taste that there's a new Forza coming, and this is what it's supposed to look like in engine on the Series X.
I was actually really surprised to see this one. Sorry, I'm jumping in. Go ahead, Ren.
No, I'm ready to hand it off.
Okay. I don't know much about Forza. I've never played one. I know that it's sort of tag team between Turn 10 and Playground, right? They got the Horizon and they got the Motorsport, and they sort of interchange releases every couple of years.
They are structurally different, the two.
Totally. Yeah, and I understand that. One is very much more of an arcade style on the Horizon side, and this is more of a simulator.
Yeah.
I guess maybe before this, I was naively thinking that knowing how well Horizon 4 is doing, like that is globally, accolade by everybody. Everybody loves that game.
Play it; it's so good.
Yeah, and it's definitely high on the list of games to play. Whereas I know, like Motorsport 7, I don't want to say it was poorly received, but there was definitely a lot more, critical reception to it. So I'm surprised that Microsoft, that has essentially 2 first-party studios working on racing games, Playground is now doing other things. So now they're down to 1 racing studio, would decide to focus on a motorsport as opposed to taking us to Horizon 5.
So I should clarify that the other thing the Playground is working on is a separate team. So,
is it okay? Okay, so Playground is
so
still
okay. Playground has at least two groups. One of them does Horizon. One of them is doing the thing we'll talk about later, and then Turn 10 is exclusively pointed at motorsport.
Right, and I mean it's clear they know what they're doing. This looks gorgeous. I'll say the same thing I did in the PS5 reveal, that a simulator style racing game is a great way to show off a console's graphical fidelity. This is beautiful for sure, but it's a couple years down the road, maybe a year or two down the road, and knowing now that Playground is also working on racing. It seems weird that Microsoft would have two first-party studios when that genre is so heavily covered by any third parties. You toss a coin in any direction, and there's arcade games right through to simulator games, kart games, and everything in between. So I'm surprised that they would focus so heavily on a racing genre.
And Microsoft has Dirt 5, which is Ubisoft, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Dirt 5 is. Yeah. So that is coming soon, and it's already running at 120 frames and all that. Like they're already really. I mean, they didn't even bring it up, probably because it would have taken away from talking about Forza here. But one thing I heard, I listened to an interview with Aaron Greenberg, who's the head of marketing at Xbox, after the fact, and he was asked something about the fact that Forza game is not going to the thing that got alluded to was that Game Pass is allowing studios like Turn 10 to not have to annualize sequels anymore, and that this motorsport is going to become the platform Forza Motorsport. That's why the number's gone. And that basically they can just continue to iterate and improve it, and as the next generation system comes out, then they just make some, they make improvements there and just continue to roll those things out. And so I
hope that works.
It becomes like a racing service, right?
Yeah,
basically it's like, here is your racing, here is your pipeline to racing games, and then they can add map, or they can add new tracks, they can add new cars, they can add new, like, all of those things, and you can either buy the game or you pay your Game Pass and you get access to it, which would be amazing, and would be great if like that model could apply to other
sports games.
Bingo.
Yeah. Like, I hope that works. My God, I don't give a shit about racing games or sports games, but I hope that works, because that
if they just turn into platforms.
Obvious. That seems so obvious. Yeah.
But the install base hasn't been there, and now you have a successful install base in Game Pass, and it's like, we can try this, and we'll see if it works. But I mean, Forza is at least a game that has enough clout that it can probably manage it, and then potentially Horizon. The thing about all the Horizon games, which weren't brought up here at all, is that they're all set in different places, right? So maybe that one still shows up every 2 or 3 years as a expansion. Here's a new world or a new section of the country or something like that. I expected Forza to be a spring launch. I thought one thing that I had heard is that they had been kind of pumped the brakes on things to point a lot of people at Halo, to make sure Halo comes out at launch. There's a rumor that I heard, but it's a rumor. And that is some of why we don't have a date on it yet.
Well, speaking of services, Halo is a service too. Halo Infinite.
I mean, that is a good point. Is it seems to be that is going to be a story delivery mechanism going forward.
Yeah.
And that there's talk that multiplayer may even be free to play.
Yeah, they had that. They were saying that this is the last. They're not thinking about another Halo. This is Halo for the next few years, or however many years they decide to do this. So,
and again, if they can monetize through Game Pass and not having to sell the games, then we can do these things.
Yep.
They're still going to have, I mean, this goes beyond the conversation here, and I know it's already been like an hour and a half, but the thing I'll say on that is still has to be a marketing beat. There has to be an occasion to promote the thing. And so having Game Pass isn't like milk, right? Where like everybody just gets it and they know it exists and they need it and they go get it. Like there still needs to be an occasion to market Game Pass, right? And maybe it's going to be these types of things. Like it's once a year, we have these direct type of scenarios where it's like, here's the cool stuff that's coming down the hopper. Remember to buy Game Pass, right? Like maybe that's kind of what they're going for, and that could work. But to sort of abandon the occasion or the need for these PR marketing beats is going to be tough. And I know that's not what you're saying. I'm sort of thinking in terms of like the inevitable, like if they rely on Game Pass, this is what it'll be. Yeah. So they'll have to find some creative way to market that.
Because Netflix doesn't like promote anywhere.
They have their really, it's true. Don't. I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think it works there though because Netflix doesn't require a $500 box to buy at this point, right? Like I think once there is that's removed, then it could possibly be easier. Also, Netflix serves more than video games. It's a huge industry for sure, but not everyone plays video games, but everybody watches TV, right? Everybody watches TV. So like there's I think a built-in awareness there, but I think Netflix, the model does allow credence to like a Game Pass to become something more ubiquitous for sure.
Mm-hmm. Musty, you were wanted to talk about Hellblade. We did not.
I was going to talk about Hellblade. The whole presentation for me would have graded probably a full letter grade higher if they would have done anything with this game today. Yeah. I watched the developer diary, but all we got today was that this game was set in Iceland and that she's going to travel across Iceland. There were like 40 areas in Iceland that they wanted to travel across. And here's our YouTube channel. Go check it out. And granted, I watched the video. Tonally, I feel like it was smart not to put it in the show because it was a very reserved. Like the head of that studio is very soft spoken. Like he's not Joseph Ferris, right? Like he's very reserved, and it was just kind of like a travelogue of them going to these places in Iceland. But like, I wanted to see more of this, like this trailer, and hitting us with this last December was like, it was insane. And the only other mention that they made was that Unreal Engine 5 that this is going to be on UE5, which I'm pleased to hear, but it's also proof that like going from UE4 to UE5 is easily scalable. I'm still very excited.
It's going to come out not for a while, right? It could also.
I mean, this could be as early as next fall. But again, I like the fact they didn't even show like 10 seconds. Give me what the gunk gave us, like just a little bit of walking.
Gunk.
And I think I would have been fine with that. But it's just like
I don't know. I think as much as I agree with you that it sucked, I think from a marketing perspective, it was wise they didn't give gameplay here. And this is like the only rare occasion I'll say that, because the staple of Hellblade, the first one, was that it was visually amazing. And it was from a not a AAA studio, and it was like this weird thing where like this was the most amazing thing, and like I said earlier, like this is, if there's any game that's going to make me buy an Xbox, it's this one. Like that's how excited I am for it. I loved the first game; it's one of the greatest games ever. But I think if they were to give any gameplay that wasn't fully leveraging UE5, people would shit on it. And I think
that is a legit point, and I did not even think about that.
It has to be.
They're going to tout 5, and then they show us 4.
Right. We've seen what UE5 can do with that demo that they released earlier, the Epic released earlier. So we know what it's capable of. If if Hellblade doesn't take advantage of everything we saw in that demo, then the narrative is Hellblade sucks. Like, and they can't do that. They have to make sure.
And then people turn around and say that trailer last year was, even though it's been proven not to be fake. That it was faked.
I don't know the trailer, the Hellblade trailer.
It has been Digital Foundry confirmed that is in engine. And
I wasn't sure if you were referring to like the UE the UE engine, like that was fake or whatever. So, okay, yeah. So I think they're smart to not do it. The thing is, I feel like because during the UE5 discussion, they talked about how developers are just getting a hold of this. Now, I'm certain first party developers got a hold of it earlier than other developers. So let's assume Microsoft and its developers have had access to UE5 for several months now. Mm-hmm. Several months is not a long time to even get familiar with a new engine. I mean, I know it's still UE, but it's a new engine.
Especially in this environment.
Exactly.
And having to, yeah.
So my fear is that, earliest fall of 2021 maybe, but I'm saying 2022. Like I really do feel like it's going to be like a later game because they have to make it beautiful and perfect. And this is also a situation where maybe the team Ninja Theory is so adept at making these amazing visuals without the help of Microsoft, right? And so if Microsoft comes in, they bought and they say, what more resources do you need? Is Ninja Theory saying, oh, we don't really need more resources. Like, we know how this works. And is there going to be any tension there? Now, that's a crazy assumption, of course, but there could be some things there. I don't know. I just think even fall 2021 is tough. That's my fear.
Optimistic.
Yeah, it's optimistic. Yeah. And believe me, that sucks because I want this game.
Yeah. So what I wish they would have done in like your thought process there helps me feel better about this, because like this is honestly this and like the lack of like actual Forza like in cockpit gameplay were like the 2 points of this presentation. I'm like, misses, like swings and misses. Hearing you give that potential reasoning for it makes me feel a little bit better about it. They've got other projects that they could have been like, hey, you know what? Here's why we're not like, they could have been like, here's why we're not showing it, but here's the other project we're working on. Because like there's Project Mara and Project Insight, and I'm not sure. I don't know what those two were turning into. Mara sounds like another like psychological kind of like realist, like almost like modern day take on what the original Hellblade was. Maybe
at the same time though, because Hellblade is now, or Ninja Theory is now the Hellblade studio, at least in popular consciousness, that's what they think of it as. So do you think if they were to show any of their other, I don't think they'd get the same leeway that Obsidian got. Obsidian can say, we have this game called Grounded, which doesn't look anything like we've ever done before. We can have fun with it. We can make fun of it, whatever. People are like, that's fine. But we also have this really cool thing. Yeah. Grounded. But I wonder if like, I don't know if Ninja Theory can get away with that. If Ninja Theory's like, here's this other thing we're working on, and if it's also not pristine, then people are like, what's wrong with Ninja Theory? Like,
then there's a smudge on the studio.
Yeah. So I think it was a smart move, but I don't like it.
I appreciate your explanation better than what my mind was.
Well, like, good. I could talk you off that ledge. I hope I helped.
Thank you. You did.
Am I wrong in assuming I was under the impression that the first Hellblade game was also made by a really smaller team for Ninja Theory? Is that wrong?
They built up their studio as a result of this acquisition, as I understand.
Yeah, they were pretty small.
Makes you think it went from like 40 people to like 60 to 80 people, which is a huge jump for a studio of that size. Which is why then they also have these kind of sub projects that are also in the works as well. But they are not, I mean, they're nowhere close to the size of some of the studios that were showing stuff today.
You know what?
They're like double the size of Double Fine, but they're still small. Yeah, they're still very small.
I just want to say that was a really good conversation. I really, really enjoyed that actually between Musty and Caleb, because I was having my own little battles internally as well, because this is the one game that has, sparked that imaginative interest in new gen. Like there's not many graphical, in-engine cutscenes or anything that I've seen through PS5 or Xbox that have really made me say that's next generation. We've seen mechanics that display that, but this is the only time, or last November when we saw the original trailer for it, was the only time I'm like, Jesus, that's what games are going to look like. That is amazing. So I was really looking forward for this one to showcase that. But when it said Iceland, like
Oh yeah,
Far
that's gonna
and
be so
away,
good.
Watch the
Iceland is
developer,
like-
the developer diary is beautiful.
Yeah, I've
Like-
been all over that country. You could say South Africa, you could say New Zealand. Like nothing would hold the gravitas that Iceland does because of how just.
But that's hard to
foreign it is.
convey. That's
Right,
super
right.
hard to convey, except to people who have experienced it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I played Death Stranding. That's modeled after Iceland, so I
Yeah.
think I know. I think I'm good.
you've pretty much been there.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah,
There's lots of ice.
a lot of gunk.
Yeah, getting gunk. I was curious because this is I guess I don't have a good there. It's, good
God,
transition.
once again, right?
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to be real creative here by saying, Ninja Theory's Hellblade was one of the best games of last generation, along with Tetris Effect for PlayStation VR. That's good enough.
Right, that works.
I was clapping for Tetris Effect, Ryan.
Tetris Effect was good. That was a good game.
But so
I'm
Dean,
so happy about this.
Dean, tell me
So
why
happy.
this is on your list here. I don't know why this guy is, but
Yeah, that's Alexei Pajitnov. He made Tetris.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Who's that guy?
Who's that guy?
This dude.
I was kind of getting emotional during this one. Tetris is great, and the idea that Game Pass is what it is, and this is going on Game Pass, and it's almost like Tetris Effect mixed with Tetris 99. I could totally see this just being like forevermore a great way to interact with anybody who's playing. Anybody who ever has Game Pass, who's having a rough day or whatever, can always go to Tetris, and there's always going to be players playing it. You don't have to have a VR headset. You don't have to have really any of that. It's just, I think this is such a great thing, as simple as it is.
And it looks collaborative, right? Like it looks like it's a.
There's a moment where they
Yeah.
merge the screens.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
like
cool.
3 people working together, which is
Yeah.
just
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I could just see this forevermore being just Tetris. Like this is what people think of when they think of Tetris. And I love the music. But yeah, just
the
to see
music is
everybody
so
like
good.
the famous streamers and Alexei Pajitnov and
yeah, right there. The yellow goes over there.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So
If you
again,
haven't played it, if you have PSVR, like I would encourage. This is a Xbox conversation, but if you have PSVR, get it.
Yeah.
It's
I have a friend
it's
who
so
has
good.
PSVR, and that's the only time I play it at his house. And I've played a lot of games. I played Resident Evil. I played Beat Saber, or Tetris Effect is the game I sweated the most in, and I think it was like emotional sweat because I was just like, this is freaking like it was just in my face, and it was crazy. So yeah, it's a good game.
And good news for people who have bought that version, it is coming to PlayStation 4, but a little bit later than the Xbox version.
Yeah, it's
cool.
a launch exclusive.
Yeah.
awesome.
it's just like a free upgrade or
Yeah, free upgrade.
sweet.
Nice.
What about? So, is it an expansion where now it is multiplayer? Because I've only played
Yeah.
it through the VR where it's solo and the cool beats are going off in your head, and
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a multiplayer, cooperative type of situation.
Expansion. So it'll be an expansion for them. It'll be a full release for Xbox because they
Yes.
haven't had it before.
Is it do we know if it's cross platform?
I haven't seen anything about that.
I would
so
love that, man. Just one Tetris for everybody. Just
that'd be awesome.
multiplayer Tetris Effect for just anybody who's anywhere.
So
Which
on
doesn't
Switch,
have Tetris Effect. Yeah. What do you
Put it on
hate the
Switch.
Switch, Dean? Is that it? You hate the Switch? It's fine. Dean hates the Switch. We got it. No, it's cool.
I love my Switch.
No, you don't.
I love you, buddy. It's okay.
Musty, you had another game on this list, and it was on the pre-show, I believe. That
It was this
Exo
game looks
Mecha
the game
here.
looks nuts. Okay, I did not expect for this to have me going what. So I totally was like, "Is this Crisis?" And
I can see that.
so at first I'm like, "What is this?" Like, there's so much shiny going on. So this is Exo Mecha, which is it's a free to play, like cooperative competitive multiplayer shooter. They said there's going to be a battle royale feature, but there's like people in mechs that you can jump into, and like look at this thing.
Silver
Guy
Surfer.
riding a rocket. He's just like this game looks just bonkers.
I jumped into this trailer right when he jumps into the mech, and my initial thought was like, "Oh my god, is this Titanfall 3? This looks amazing." And of course, it's not. So I was forever disappointed for the rest of the trailer. But it still looked really cool. And then they lost me at multiplayer. Like I was like, if this had a single player campaign, like I'd be all over it. But yeah, it still looks really cool. Not to diminish it. It looks
the dragon reminded me. I said this to Josh earlier, but this reminded me of the Roboraptor. No, Roboraptor that you'd buy from like Sharper Image.
Oh,
you know, the, like white and black robotic like dinosaur that like would like really like walk around.
I'm looking this up. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Roboraptor. I'm telling you, Roboraptor.
Yeah, I got some like Revenge of the Fallen vibes, like just giant Transformer style mechs fighting in the desert on the dunes. Like, I don't know, you know, between this and you know, Halo and what's the other one we saw? Bright Memory. Like,
Bright Memory Infinite.
Yeah. Like I think that really cements the FPS genre on the Xbox platform, because like looking at the PS5 reveal, we didn't see any first person. Oh, that's not true. We saw Deathloop was the only first person shooter we saw. Like we just don't see those a lot on. And I know that's sort of been a trope, like for each generation of Xbox versus PlayStation. They've always sort of surpassed Sony in terms of first-person shooters. But yeah, I think just seeing 3 already that are all pretty solid is going to be a big selling feature.
And I know I didn't have this on our list, but Stalker 2 I think fits in that mold as well.
Yeah.
So hasn't that one been like in development hell for like a decade? Like I feel like we heard about Stalker 2.
I felt like it was like 2000 when the first Stalker game. I felt like I remember like PC World magazine like sharing that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Stalker 2 was like,
it's been a while.
I remember like an announcement. They're like, "Oh, it's gonna come out in 2020." I was like, "2020? That's so far away." That's like the last time they talked about it. I feel like, so it must have been like 2015 or something.
Stalker 1 was 07?
Shadow of Chernobyl, if that's the first game.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so 13 years for a sequel. See, I've always been like intrigued by Chernobyl. Not like in a sick way, but like in a a human,
like in a way that you wish you kind of would have done it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, how I would have done it. No, just from a morality and a desperation perspective, the human condition. I always thought that was a cool story. I don't know how much it's going to play into a Stalker game with like floating Jello, but it looks kind of cool.
Yeah,
it'll tackle serious issues in the way that like any other zombie game does. You know, like
Is
it'll
it a
be there
zombie
for
game?
set dressing.
It's very survival orientated. I know that much too.
If there's
I never played
radioactivity, there's going to be zombies, right?
Yeah, some kind of infected maybe.
Yeah,
I'm tired of zombies.
yeah, me too. But you know.
Cars.
Speaking of zombies, Sauce.
Do I have a zombie game here?
State of Decay 3.
Oh,
a moose zombie game.
Go ahead, talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, sorry, I took you off the rails with Stalker, but like, the only thing I was going to close out, and Dean, you kind of led me with the FPS thing. Like the Destiny news is potentially a really big deal.
Yeah, I was questioning it at first. I was like, "Is that all of it?" You're like, and then of course later on they confirmed everything there was going to be on it. So not having to buy every expansion, it's just on Game Pass. That's if I'm going to play Destiny, that's where I'm going to be playing it. Is on Xbox.
So what is this, like Destiny 2 and all the DLC?
Destiny 2 and everything, and Destiny has this roadmap where they're pulling all the old stuff as well, like a vault. Like it's a vault.
That was Michael Jackson screaming.
That actually made me jump right there.
Yeah,
turn the volume down just a little bit more.
That was the first thing that you heard after the Halo gameplay was that moment right there. Yeah, so I should shift off of it, but yeah, so it's Destiny 2. Every expansion that's come out is in September, and then the new one is in November, and that's going to be available on Game Pass as of that moment as well.
Cool,
which is awesome.
Yeah, good to see those two kind of making amends, I think.
And they're taking Destiny.
Sorry, Caleb.
Oh no, go ahead, please.
So I always wondered, like when Halo sort of transitioned from Bungie to 343, like was that a bad breakup? Did Xbox or did they just spin off into their own because they were too big?
So Bungie did Reach, and then they were kind of like, I think they had Destiny as a vision,
right?
for a while. Like,
Creepy.
that was definitely a strange tone moment of the show as well. But yeah, so there was kind of a I don't know if it was a, I don't know how amicable of a breakup it was, but like they didn't hate each other. Obviously, Destiny wasn't then suddenly a PlayStation exclusive or something like that. But they, I don't know, they were tired of being guided, I think, by Microsoft, and I don't know if at least them being that kind of close is a good thing.
I agree.
I think the fact that they got to keep Destiny is saying enough, right? Like the fact that Microsoft wasn't like, yeah, you can spin off and do your own thing, but you're not making Destiny games. Like they spun off and kept Destiny. That tells you that the relationship is pretty solid, right?
Destiny didn't start until after the spinoff.
Oh, okay.
So Halo Reach was the fourth game, and then Halo got handed off to 343, and then Bungie kind of said we're solo now, and then Activision grabbed them, and then they were like, "Yeah, we don't like this anymore." And, yeah,
maybe that's what I'm thinking, because didn't Activision let them retain Destiny? That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah,
that was a weird breakup too.
Yeah, that's weird.
I have to wonder if it's Bungie.
I think the State of Decay trailer was more like, we got a snowy game with bows and arrows and zombies too. Like it was like they had to show, because Last of Us Part 2 is like big and everyone's talking about it. They're like, we can do that kind of thing too. And here's a sequel to a series that people like. I thought there's a reason they chose that particular scene for that particular trailer. I think
are State of Decay games multiplayer, or are they
Yeah, like it's like a full open world MMO style, and it's a series I wish I got into. Like I feel like we just got State of Decay 2, right? Like 2 years ago when Xbox bought Undead Labs.
Summer, it was 2 years. Yeah,
it was like 2018. But State of Decay 1, that came out in like 2012, 2013, the same year as Last of Us and DayZ and Dead Rising 3 and that other Walking Dead game. Like it was just zombie exhaustion. So I know the gimmick was like, this is the online open world style zombie game, but I never got into it, and apparently is a pretty good game. So I wouldn't mind checking out State of Decay 3. The deer zombie was cool.
Visually, this is entirely different than anything that series has seen before.
Right.
I did see though that this is in like early pre-production at this point, so I don't know if this is like a target for them or how soon we're gonna see this. But like it was, I at that moment, like I audibly was like, whoa. Like I was like, that's.
I'm thinking of this. If there's no gameplay and there's no release date, then it's definitely a long ways off. Like that's kind of like, because if there's any gameplay, they'd want to show that, right?
It's like the Diablo 4 trailer, right? Like it's just like here's an idea, and here's something scary.
Yeah, yeah. So it's probably a ways off. Yeah.
Well, because they use the Unreal Engine, right, for State of Decay, so they're probably just waiting for Unreal 5.
They might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Although if Hellblade has access to it, if Ninja Theory has access to it, then this being, I think. This is a first party, right? Didn't they buy the state?
They really got going in the last 6 months to a year. Like Hellblade's been going a lot longer than that.
That's true. That's true.
I think one thing that's I had a good thought, and I have it written down somewhere. Find it. Where is it?
Prove it. Prove that you had a good thought.
Okay, I found it. One of the things that has been out of like the Xbox has not done in previous years, and I came into this show and I was like I need this show to be like, I was very much like I wanted this to be the grand slam in the first inning that I needed it to be, but the thing is that I almost said Halo, Xbox historically has not shown the roadmap. They haven't gone beyond 12 months, maybe 18 months at the most. For most games, except for like their biggest tentpole games, and to have them show something like State of Decay 3 that may be 2 years out. To have them show something like Everwild, which may be 2 years out, and that sort of thing is out of character, but is so necessary in this stage if they want to sell people on this platform. I know some of you have said, like, I need to be in that Xbox ecosystem and have whatever system I need to have when this game comes out. But at least you know that that's 2 years down the road.
Yep.
You know? But you know it now, that at least that's going to be something, so you can start planning for that instead of it being like, oh, well, that's on that platform, and I guess I'm just not going to get to play it because I'm just not, like, I can't, right? Like, you can start looking ahead or figuring out how you want to do that. But I commend them for at least letting go of that, like, trope of their presentations where it's like, here's the next 9 months or a year at the most. So kudos to them. Even if State of Decay is like 2023, like, and it might be, I don't know. I have no idea what dev cycles are like, and but if
you
they want
just
to
shoot the same zombie moose over and over again, so really it's gonna be released next month. Yeah, it's gonna be easy.
Dean, before we wrap it up with what Microsoft wrapped the show up with, because unless we want more stuff to talk about, because Dean, I know you mentioned in the checkoff sheet here that you wanted to talk about Echo Generations.
Yeah, I guess speaking of Moose, this is a Canadian studio that called Cocoa Cucumber, and clearly some Stranger Things inspirations. I guarantee that's modeled after Dustin, but it's just like a turn-based RPG, sort of quirky, like a Earthbound style with a Lego aesthetic. Your weapon is a hockey stick, and it's just like a turn-based RPG style game that looks really, really cool.
Yeah, it has that depth of field of like an Octopath Traveler, but like the quirkiness of Earthbound, like you said, with some voxel elements in there. Yeah, I like
voxel. That's a good word. I like.
Show me voxel, and I'm in.
Yeah.
The question about the meteor last night, I was like, this is Earthbound. Like,
they probably know that too. Hopefully they're like really like playing into that, and there'll be more like references like that, because I think that would go a long way for the fan base. Like,
you got the little dog thing there. It's super quirky. I don't know. I'm totally into that. And again, just that turn-based style, even if it's not a full-fledged RPG, certainly not a JRPG, but just to see that on an Xbox console is super refreshing. I like it. And a Canadian studio. I think they've done a couple other things. They're out of Toronto. So cool stuff.
Kind of interesting that some of the most compelling things for you guys showed up in the pre-show.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I'm ready for Bala. I'm gonna play that.
I had a hard time with the pre-show.
I had a hard time because of Matt Pat in the pre-show. I think I had the pre-show otherwise I think was fine. Like, I don't know, he annoys me. But anyway, this is now on the internet for everyone to see.
Ninja had that pre-recorded thing with the fun. Like,
just like, it was like, could you get some Xbox fans in here? Like,
they had Alana, at least.
A lot, like, I know where Alana stands, but like when you get people who are like, I use my Xbox as a media center, it's like, get out. Like,
yeah, why?
You Jacksepticeye, calling you out, buddy. Like, seriously, man. Like that's exactly what went wrong with last generation.
Maybe
is that it got as a media center, and he's perpetuating that going into this generation.
Maybe there's just no coherent Xbox fans to bring onto the show. Maybe that's
it. They need to hit you up, Musty. That's what they got to do.
Yeah, that's what they got to do.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, don't tell me that Halo's your bathroom break. Like, are you serious?
I did like see Metal Jesus. That was fun.
That was true. He was in there. Yeah.
Oh man,
compatibility, which is a huge selling point for the platform.
They should have had him come on and actually be a talking head rather than just a, Or
here's Ninja recording on his phone.
Yeah,
for 3 seconds. Yeah,
very unprepared.
From a marketing perspective, though, Ninja's going to get more eyeballs than Metal Jesus Rocks. I mean, just to be fair, I don't like it, but that's fair.
Like 15 times as much.
Yeah, it sucks.
But anyways, they ended this show before we wrap this up, is there any other games we want to cover besides the last one that they ended with? Is there any other one? Because there was a couple ones that we're probably not going to talk about. Warhammer, Darktide,
Crossfire.
Didn't we just get a Warhammer? Like
Left for Warhammer. The Vermintide was like 2 years ago.
no, but we
wasn't it?
just got like a Mechanicus.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 studios working on Warhammer titles right
Yeah,
now.
like do
Yeah.
people play those?
I guess so.
Like I know the tabletop is huge, but
I know Vermintide was pretty big, and
Yeah.
they made a sequel. This is more of that, just in the 40K universe. I'm thinking.
is it a first-person shooter? Did we see?
We didn't see any gameplay, but like the Vermintide's a first-person like melee, like Left 4 Dead
Right.
style game. So
Okay.
There was a moment that looked like it was. I mean, there was the like gun down in the lower third of the screen type of moment, but that could have just been for cinematic effect.
yeah, it could most likely going to be Left 4 Dead like.
Yeah.
I'll mention that I thought Crossfire might have been the next Call of Duty because we have yet to see that revealed on any
True.
platform. I
So-
thought for a minute, but I was wrong. It was
So
Crossfire.
Remedy's doing the story for that.
Who is?
Like Remedy is
Remedy.
doing the campaign for that, which is actually pretty exciting. And I like. There's nothing that Sam Lake has made that I haven't enjoyed.
It's
So
gonna have like bullet time.
I don't know. There was like that ghost, like invisible guy. I don't know. Like I know nothing about that. I missed the beta. It was like 2 weeks ago for the multiplayer on it, but they're gonna build out a campaign in it with him backing it, and I'm like, okay.
I wonder if by him backing it, he's also enforcing it be part of the Remedyverse. Like I know he's trying to build out like that thing. I wonder if he's like, okay, I'm writing it, but it's got to have these things because I want people 20 years from now to look back and be like, oh, that was all part of the same universe.
Yet he's the face of Max Payne, and
It's true.
That'd be amazing, like a multiplayer game where everybody's just bullet time. It just goes.
Oh, that'd be
so slow.
weird, man. If everybody's bullet time at the same time, then it's just working in normal time.
Yeah.
You know, that would be
Yeah.
crazy.
Oh, I must
I'm
completely missed
super
Remedy.
intrigued by this because I like just this visual like looks cool. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If-
Oh, wait, yeah.
But yeah, if it's
I don't. Yeah, it'd be interesting because I mean, like Fallout, for example, Fallout 76, they couldn't do VATS in multiplayer arenas. So I wonder if it is even possible to simulate some sort of bullet timey thing. And I know that was just a crazy like thing, but now you got me thinking, like, how would that work? I wonder.
Yeah, but you make a good point about the whole universe. Like maybe you'll see a TV with like Night Springs on it or something, like that Twilight Zone.
There's just a book. There's an Alan Wake book on a
Yeah.
bookshelf somewhere.
Yeah, even something small like that, would still connect the universes, right? I'm sure there's got to be something, right?
It's this guy who goes invisible.
But yeah, it's like I said, it's one of those games that I got, well, very much Call of Duty vibes from it, and I thought maybe this was the Call of Duty reveal because we have yet to see it happen. I imagine there's going to be one for both console launches, you know? But we'll keep waiting for that, right? That might be in the predictions.
Yeah, we didn't hit on Phantasy Star Online 2, which I think is a good get for some people, but I think this is a expansion. This new Genesis thing.
New Genesis, yeah, but again, big in the Japanese market, right?
And I mean, I was a huge fan, you know, and it's a
Sega.
huge thing because it's just, I'm speaking out of ignorance here, but right, this is just a re-release of the Dreamcast game, right?
No,
That
No. This is
they-
Fantasy
no,
Star.
they-
it's an entirely
right?
new. This came out maybe 6 months ago, as a new kind of Monster Hunter kind of take on Phantasy Star.
Gotcha.
It looks gorgeous, man.
There's a moment where you see the guy's face. It looks kind of out of place, but
It kind of almost looks like Xenoblade a little bit.
It looks totally
right
like
here, right there,
Xenoblade.
right there. That's the moment.
This, yeah.
Very anime face with the realistic environments. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think it look.
Xenoblade.
That's not my style of game, but it's really cool that they have
Look at how
so
tiny
many
the
different
HUD is.
genres.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking of that video that Pam made. I was like, oh no, the small HUDs. Yeah, yeah.
Look at that. You're like, how much health is that?
But
You
yeah,
get like a
several.
magnifying glass and it's like walk up to your screen like, oh.
Oh, come on, this is like a joke.
I'm sure you can adjust that, or at least hopefully.
Yeah, accessibility options. Just
Well, it's assuming you're playing on a 70-inch television. That's what they're doing.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah,
Projector.
never mind.
The only other thing was Ori, which
Caleb, you had some comments on that, right?
The only comment I had on Ori was, and it's not Ori specifically, it's just if you have to slow down your footage to show the difference between 60 frames and 120 frames, is 120 frames really that big a deal? Like, if you can't show it real time to convince me that it's important, then why slow it down? That's the only thing I have to say.
One of the issues there, and I agree with you. I agree with you. One of the issues is that the cap on frame rates on YouTube is 60.
Yeah.
So there would be no way to convey.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. That's fair. Okay.
But I get you there. Effectively, what they did was they slowed it down by half so that you could see that 60 frames was 30 frames, and
we put it at 30 frames so you could see.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. My only fear is that, like, because the game itself, I've never played it, but it looks like my kind of game, and everybody loves it. It looks amazing. And my fear is that, like, is someone telling them, hey, you have to make your game 120 so that we can put 120 in the marketing collateral. Does it actually need 120? Are they sort of bowing to those whims and saying, okay, we'll make it 120, whatever? Again, I've never played the game, so maybe 120 would really be a better experience. But if it was already so great and everybody loved it so much, like, is that really necessary? And it's probably really just chasing the numbers, right? That's what marketing is.
It's a good way to market it as the early gap filler for this new generation. If you're like, oh, you missed Ori, you had a PS4, now you're over here. Hey, Ori, like
as long as you have a 120 hertz screen that's capable of handling that. Yeah, that's the other thing. Which,
yes,
Most of these aren't
Come back and replay a game too. You know, it's like, oh, you played before, maybe just pop it in and see it again. Basically, another time. So
yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
There's a number of them. They listed off a bunch that were gonna be there, like Gears, Forza Horizon 4, like all of those.
Oh, I would love to see Forza Horizon be 4K 60. I think there's like two performance and like the two different modes.
You get the choice in Horizon. I think they're going to try and get to 4K 60.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
So as a developer, like, maybe this is a dumb question, but what do you have to do to like enable 4K or 100? Like, do you have to do anything?
It depends on how you code it. So like if you have functions built specifically to expect 30 frames per second, then you have to go then and adjust that coding as well. So for example, there was a game, God, I can't remember which one it was, but it was a game that basically timed the damage based on frames rather than based on actual runtime. So it's like, if I shoot this gun, the DPS is X damage per frame rather than X damage per actual real-time second. Most games don't do that, but a lot of especially multiplayer games, if they're like, we can't anticipate how each computer is going to run, so we have to base it on something that is consistent and static. And so then they maybe say, we're going to force it at 30 frames and therefore force the damage per second or per frame to basically be that. So there's that kind of a situation where it could be that they have to go in and like adjust some things, but that's really that's a minor thing. I think the bigger issue is if they have to change assets. So if the animations, like if they're using actual like animation sprites or they're cycling through animation frames in order to meet a certain time frame, then they have to add new frames. They have to go in there. Now, Ori, I think it looks like it's vector based. It looks like it's not really like sprite based. So they probably don't have to do that. But then that could also introduce a lot of glitches, right? If there's certain formulas that are like, if you think about like someone running into a wall like this, right? Like this object here is calculating every second, every frame essentially. So 30 times a second, it's calculating to say, am I touching a wall? And if I am touching a wall, then stop and don't let me keep moving. Now, if all of a sudden that calculation is different and it's saying, am I touching a wall, but it's anticipating one frame beyond that, then you could clip through the wall really easily. And so it's those kind of formulas that they have to go back and say, okay, did we anticipate any changes in this? My guess is that a company like the people who do Ori they probably knew that their game was going to look really good eventually. They probably just had a really good, like, they probably built it in a way that would make those adjustments and changes really easy.
It's on
And
PC.
so they anticipated it, I'm guessing. So they probably knew that they were going to be able to do it. So when the hardware came up, they were probably like, oh, you could do 120 frames a second? Well, crap. Now, like, let us do that. We want to do that, right?
Yeah, maybe it was a dumb question. I was just
not a dumb
thinking
question
that
at all,
like developers generally develop on a PC platform, which 30 frames per second is so far yesterday that it just doesn't exist anymore on a PC. So
but if
I just assumed it was natively 60 or 120 and it was downscaled by the limitations of the hardware, but clearly not the case.
If that is the case, that they built it for that 60 frame target, but if they're also thinking our bigger market's going to be on consoles, then they might have just said, you know, let's build to 30 instead, because building to 60 actually takes more time anyway. So like we can save time, hence save money if we just target to 30, build everything according to that, and then roll forward. That's probably what a lot of games do. But yeah, Ori's another example. I mean, if they're an Xbox exclusive, so like PC is sort of in their DNA, they probably built it to target 60, and now but they may not have built it to target 120, I guess. So maybe they now are like, anyway.
There's a number of even when they've talked about, and they didn't talk about it at all during the show as far as like backwards compatibility goes, but they've expressed in the recent past that like some backwards compatibility is going to benefit from the horsepower that's in the new machine, and that some of these games are going to run at double the frame rate, and some of these games are going to be able to scale through machine learning up to higher resolutions, you know, even like original Xbox games, which excites me. So like I think that's great. I need to see it. I need to understand like what will, what won't, but just the promise that because of the sheer power in the machine that those things are possible, I think that's great. That doesn't apply to all the games we saw today, because those are being targeted for PC and Series X, and in some cases Xbox One. But I think
I anticipate that it'll be mostly the previous generation games that are built around vectors rather than like static assets will probably be the ones that'll be more able to upgrade to like 60 frames a second. Because if you imagine taking like an old generation game and just doubling the speed, that compromises the entire integrity of the game, right? Like, you know,
then have to dial a whole bunch of other stuff, right?
Right. So like you're used to moving in a certain way. They built the game. We talked about game feel earlier. They built the game to anticipate a certain amount of frames 3 generations ago. Now we double that speed and it's uncontrollable, right? Like imagine the first time a console user touches a mouse and tries to play a first-person shooter, they move the mouse slightly to the left. And like that's what it's going to be like unless they anticipate that. So
I do have a good example of what you guys are talking about. On PC, I tried out Dark Souls. They have a patch that's a user-based patch for it to be 60 frames per second called DS Fix. So I was looking at the information, trying it out, and I was playing it, and I realized the ladders do not work unless you hit it at a certain hitbox. You have to go to the left of the ladders just a little bit, or you can't use ladders in that mode. That's just like a weird bug because they changed it to 60 frames per second.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's a lot of cascading problems. Yeah.
So proof to be told.
Super insightful, guys. Thank you. But digress. Sorry, Ryan.
No, we were talking about old games there for a second, and
Fable.
I'm gonna put a chance that. Sorry, that's as best I can do. I don't know if this is a new game or a remake of the original.
Don't care.
You don't know either, Musty. I thought you might, you know.
So the thing I see, pause right here. No,
go do it. Don't do it. Don't
you
listen
see
to him.
the guild logos in the hilt in the bottom of the sword. So if you've played the original games, I'm sorry, at the end of the sword, the circle.
The skull.
You see there's like it's almost like an S kind of deal. But that was back to the original game. Like there's a few things that are in here, and I haven't like watched like a big breakdown of this, but like that was the first thing I was like, we're here. I'm super excited for this. Go ahead and push play.
So is this the first, like, this was Lionhead up until Fable 3, right?
Lionhead went through 3. I think Lionhead was going to do Legends.
Okay, yeah.
Nature.
There was Fable the Journey, which was the Connect game, where it was Pokemon Snap, the Connect game.
Not all stories have happy endings.
I didn't think that a minute-long trailer could at least ease my feelings about the humor, but they did.
So here's another question, because I have never played a Fable game yet. Does it have humor in it at all, or like that kind of humor?
It's like British.
It's
humor.
very British, like a very British humor. Like there's in Fable 2 and 3, like there is a wheel, there's an expression wheel, and you can like walk around the city and just pass gas in front of people, like and their opinions of you will shift based on that. Some people think it's funny, some people are put off by it. I don't know. It that's good.
Stories
Sorry.
So like the original Fable, it didn't really pioneer, but it sort of mainstreamed the idea of sort of good and evil, right?
Yep.
The good and evil mechanics. So has that sort of carried through these other Fables? Like, is that the quote unquote gimmick that
there's a morality? Yeah. So they kind of hit the morality thing before Mass Effect did.
Yeah.
Around the same time as KOTOR was doing light side, dark side. But yeah, the impact here was like in a game like KOTOR, though, you go into a place and you're a dark side guy. Like people don't talk to you differently. People react to you in Fable much differently based on your alignment in that moment, or like accolades that you have. Like people will like acknowledge that in the game. But
stories have happy endings.
it's been a long time since I played the original.
Yours.
Are you
the biggest thing
that it's a remake of the original, or are you hoping for new?
Well, here's the biggest thing is I get the vibe from this. The thing about 2 and 3, 2 was probably the best of the original 3 games. Just I can't put words to why, but 2 kind of is, I think, almost universally acknowledged as the best. The third one started to get too industrial, and so you were away from bows and magic, and we're starting to just get into like swords and guns as your weapon types. I get the vibe that the fantasy aspect is very front and center here. I get the feeling of closer to where 1 was. And so even if it is a reimagining of like the first era, I'm fine with that. Like the games themselves don't necessarily have there's some lore connection between the 3, but it's not like Gears, where it's like Gears 1 then Gears 2. Like you could jump in and play Fable 2 without playing Fable 1. And you can likely play this one whenever this one comes out. Without having played the originals, without a problem.
And so nothing to do with Molyneux? Like he's not consulting on this?
I don't think so. No? I think he is. No, one thing I said, because I was talking with people about this, one thing I said that I thought would be awesome is if they pulled off the thing that Molyneux like touted. Like there was one point where Molyneux was like, you can plant an acorn, and then 30 years later, there's a large tree in its place. And I was like, if this game can like make that happen somewhere, that would be awesome.
Maybe he did it. You just have to wait a little longer.
That's right.
Yeah.
Game's only been out 15 years.
Yeah. When's the last time you booted up that game?
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel this is like the worst kept secret, and just nobody would want to admit that this game was coming. Like there was like a month ago, like there was a @Fable Twitter account that got discovered that got created in March, and the marketing people over at Microsoft were like, oh well, you know what, it's in our best interest to secure social media handles for our IP, but it's not like but no we're not doing anything with it. And so it's like, thankfully this is now out. That Twitter account has a tweet, and I don't know.
I'm intrigued by it because the humor is kind of what got my spark for this game. I know nothing of the Fable games except the name. I always see them at the and this is not a knock at anything. You see any like first party exclusive unless it's a Nintendo game at your thrift stores. They're heavily bought games, so I'm familiar with what the cover of Fable looks like. I just have never played a Fable game, but this style of humor is actually kind of got on the radar, if that makes any sense for me. So I look forward to seeing more of this coming out down the road, and we'll see.
Yeah. If
They're
they
all
can
on Game
use
Pass too.
It's got Game Pass.
Yeah, all the original ones are too. So
that's true.
Yeah.
If they can use the countryside technology that Forza Horizon 4 uses, this is going to be a very pretty game.
Yeah.
All right.
Forza Horizon 4 is stunning. It's one of the best looking games I've seen. Yeah.
Now that we got the games done, I want predictions. So, you know what, Josh? I want you to start with you. Give me a couple predictions, because PlayStation is going to do another show. We don't know a date, and Xbox is going to do another show. We don't know a date. There's a lot of cat and mouse chess being played between both consoles right now, or both companies right now, and it's probably most likely because there's no E3 this year, and the fact that there's no window, or they would probably be forced to name a date and price at the show. There isn't that right now. So it seems like they're both trying to make strategic moves to make the other person be the first person to go. And it's just the vibe I'm getting from both. Both competition right here. They're both like, I don't know. I don't want to say going. It seemed like with Microsoft going first kind of was in May when they did the first kind of games. It was kind of like, and then people were like, where's PlayStation? Well, here's a controller. It seems like there's just a little bit back and forth here. I imagine the ball now is back on Sony's court here to do something. Because I think up until a couple days ago, I think the vibe was we're getting, from my impression, we were going to get probably date and price and maybe Lockhart, the rumored cheaper version of Series X. But, they pulled back, I want to say 2 days ago with Aaron Greenberg, right?
And said it was just games in this.
Just games. So now it seems like, all right.
I think he was setting. Well, no, I think the plan. I don't mean to cut off because you were leading into Josh's thing, but like he made it clear last week that he's like, hey, this presentation is games only. We're not touching anything else this time. Like, because I think he's trying to get ahead of that perception of like of that Xbox is dragging their feet or like letting people down because they didn't get a price, but they weren't planning on ever giving the price in the first place.
I think that's just the back and forth right now, that I think both companies don't want to be the ones to go first, and right now because there's no E3, they don't have to. I think they want to hold that advantage over the competition. I don't know. That's just the vibe I'm getting, because it seems like I said, right now it seems like, all right, the ball is now in your court, Sony, to do something here. I don't know. That's just the vibe I'm getting. But let's get a prediction for, I guess, the next Xbox show. What do you get at the next Xbox show?
Can I do two small ones, or is that?
No, go ahead. We're going to hit the ground. It doesn't matter.
All right. So first up, I think that they're going to show a Banjo game. Banjo-Kazooie is going to come out, and it's going to be by Playful Corp that made Super Lucky's Tale. That's what I'm predicting, and it's going to be in partnership with Rare, so it's going to have some of the, all the music and everything that you expect from a Banjo-Kazooie, and they're going to have, I think, the Cuphead DLC, Delicious Last Course, turned into a sequel. I think it's gonna be the Cuphead 2, the Delicious Last Course, and it's gonna be a full-fledged, not just a DLC, like a full-fledged Cuphead sequel. Yep.
Cool. Caleb, what's your thoughts?
All right. My prediction, it's going to be a cop out of a prediction, but it's my prediction is that people will be, when Project xCloud is announced and rolled out, people will be largely disappointed by it. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's bundled in and the price is the same. They're basically giving it away for free, is because I think Xbox knows that it's not worth charging money for yet. So it'll take a little while for them to get it get it going. The betas of Project xCloud have been largely that people have said it's okay, but it's definitely not a console replacement. And so they're just being smart by saying, hey, we're just going to package it in. That way people can't get mad at us if it doesn't work that well. And that'll give them a huge user base to then be able to refine it and make it better. So that's not really an announcement prediction, because they're not going to come out and say, hey, guess what? Our Project xCloud isn't very good. But that's, I think that I guess my prediction is people will be disappointed if that is announced and people are able to start trying it anytime soon. That'll probably happen after the next actual presentation. So yeah, again, it's a cop out of a prediction.
I'm perfectly fine with any predictions. It doesn't have to be games. It could be like, if this hardware related, it's going to do this feature, blah, 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 blah. Any kind of prediction right now, basically, Musty. No, you know what, Musty, I'm saving you for last.
Okay.
Because you're the Xbox guy. Dean, you're next.
Okay. For sure, in the next show they're going to show a Halo multiplayer. I have a feeling it's going to have a pretty large battle royale component to it. I think that 343 just can't avoid the battle royale style. But on maybe a more out there prediction, not even an out there prediction, we know Perfect Dark is coming. Like we know it's in the works. So I bet we see a Perfect Dark reboot announced, and I think it purposely wasn't announced because this showcase was exclusively for games that were coming out on Game Pass. So I think they have sort of a hopper set aside of games that are not going to be part of Game Pass, but that there's still going to be some pretty heavy hitters in that showcase to show you why you need an Xbox Series X.
I'm going to say that, like, I guess I should really stop giving my hopes up for a Banjo game, because every year for like the last 3 years, I'm like, there's got to be one coming. There's got to be one coming. But I guess I'm gonna, pile on what Josh is saying. Next show is gonna be the Banjo one. I feel, this is my prediction. I feel there's gonna be I think we've seen the rumors. There's been some rumors going on, and I hope I'm not stealing anything from Musty, but I feel as if there's going to be some kind of change with Xbox Live, in that I don't know if I know they're going away from the 1-year subscription from it, or at least if that's the rumor I think I saw is being pulled.
Yeah, you're right. They the 1-year renewal period on Xbox Live Gold disappeared last week.
I got a funny feeling
so the only options are 1 month and 3 months.
I got a funny feeling it's gonna go away, and maybe this I'm seeing too far into the future right here. I got a funny feeling it's just gonna be Game Pass and it's gonna have live. Like, that's the only, like, you can't get around it. You can't just do live anymore. It's just gonna be Game Pass.
That's the way to do it.
Like,
get the entire install base on board with Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean, like,
did you have another prediction? Or otherwise, I will continue to talk about
I guess I'll just end it right here, because to me, the consumer, I have Game Pass Ultimate, and this is, I guess, why I'm saying this. To me, this just makes the most sense. I have Game Pass Ultimate. I bought it because of that live deal where you paid $1 and blah 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 blah. And honestly, I've hardly ever dabbled with the online, but I play the games. And to me, it's just like, you got me. You hook and got me with that. But some people aren't. Some people just want the online. I got a funny feeling it's going to go away, and it's just going to be Game Pass, and I don't know. I'll hand it off to you, Musty.
No, the evidence is there. So one of the big things that happened when they made that conversion, when they said, hey, Game Pass Ultimate exists, so if you want, you can just $1 and flip all your stuff and now be part of Game Pass Ultimate. I know I'm not the only one who went out and bought like multiple years of Xbox Live Gold so that I could get multiple years of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So I feel like they cut the 12-month to eliminate the ability for people to do that. So if the 12-month cards started to disappear out of stores in the next week or two, then they're totally prepping for that announcement. So I totally see it. Plus, Xbox is trying to do this thing where it's like choice, right? Play where you want to play. And right now, if you want to play on PC, there is no paywall for multiplayer on any of it. And so to me, it's like, yeah, it's the logical thing to do. It is a huge marketing statement to make, to be like, you don't have to pay for multiplayer here. Like,
remember the PlayStation 3, that was one of the biggest like selling points for a lot of people. Like, oh, it's free online. Yeah.
Sorry, but now, so are you saying multiplayer will be free or will be included?
I'm
in
saying
the Game Pass?
gold. I think gold disappears.
Yeah.
I think they fold the games with gold concept into Game Pass so that you don't lose that feature. Games with gold is kind of like fizzled out, in my opinion, anyways. Like the games they're offering there are kind of, they're not heavy hitters. Like at least PS Plus has been like putting out like an 8, like a high 2 to 3 to AAA game the last couple months. Like they've been trying with that. But I think they fold that in there. And then with xCloud going into Ultimate, since you'd be losing the gold feature, right, you're effectively replacing one for the other. So the price not changing there makes sense to me, I guess. But then one of the things, I feel like we're talking about this a lot, but one of the things that Xbox is lagging on right now is that free-to-play games, you have to still pay for gold, whereas PlayStation, you don't. On Switch, I don't think you do either, right? Like, I don't think you need Switches online to play Fortnite, right? But if you want to play Fortnite on Xbox, or if you want to play Apex on Xbox, you're paying for gold, and it's a hindrance to people when they could do that. They could buy the console for the same price and get it for free on PS4. So I see that as a likelihood, and they're just kind of. They weren't going to do it today because they weren't going to talk about services. But yeah, I totally see that. I agree with you entirely. So I want to talk about Lockhart. So I believe they're going to announce it. I thought that maybe I think that when PlayStation announced their digital console, that was kind of the moment that solidified that they were going to do it for this holiday. Everything, all the like, there's evidence in like the dev kit that Lockhart exists. They just haven't said anything about it. But as far as I understand, digital only. It's a scaled back version that doesn't do 4K but does everything else. And I think that, and I've heard anywhere from a price point that they're targeting anywhere from like 200 to 300 on it. And that it could be your like regardless of where PlayStation 5 goes, because there's no way they're getting down to that price. Lockhart is your casual gamer setup, and if you apply Game Pass to it, then you're already getting all these digital games. You don't need to worry about discs. So I guess that hurts for some people. Sorry, Dean. But I feel like that is going to happen, and then they're going to announce the price.
So at that point, you guess a 1S.
You'd have
the Lockhart.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they call it, because so they'll end up with 3 SKUs.
Right.
They'll end up with the 1S.
Yeah.
Which is the holdover because they stopped production on the the SADE.
The SAD.
The Sade. It's Sade. Sade. You're forgetting the addition part. And then they discontinued the Xbox One X, which I don't know why people on the internet think that means that their Xbox One X's are going to stop working. It just means that they're not going to make anymore.
Love mine.
Morons. I love mine too.
It's going to burst into flames.
So yeah, it's just sorry. And then they'll have the they'll have the 1S, they'll have the Series X, and then the Lockhart will get another name. I've heard E for economy. I've heard D for digital.
Give the D. Give him the D.
And what was the difference between? What was the difference between the 1S and the Lockhart that you said?
So the 1S, I mean, the Lockhart is going to be like 3 times as powerful as the X right now.
So it'll work forevermore for Series X games.
Yes, it is in the new ecosystem.
Right.
Like so it is everyone's talking about teraflops. I don't think anybody brought up teraflops during this presentation today.
Not mentioned today.
How about that? So the Series X is like a 12 teraflop machine, and there's rumor that the Lockhart is like a 4 teraflop machine, and the 1X is like a 1.4 teraflop machine, to give you like an example. But
I don't know what a teraflop is. I don't know how it translates to anything.
It's 1,000 gigaflops.
Got it.
Which is equivalent to 20,000 belly flops. So imagine how painful those are. That's
cannonball. But so ultimately it should still be able to do ray tracing and all those other like fancy bells and whistles. It's just what I understand is it's going to cap at 1080p. And so for people who aren't going to 4K machines or looking for like the cheaper way, it seems like that's what they're positioning themselves for. Whereas Sony is like, we just designed the digital one first and then just tacked on the drive to the side of the thing, right?
As a badonkadonk.
That's right. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I think if I was going to get a console, I would still get the Series X because that's just how I roll. But the disc capability is important.
Well, yeah, and also I don't want to say OCD, but like I would want to have the best, Yeah, I would want to have the best.
Especially if you're gonna buy it in the first year. Like I feel like that's a lot of us. Mm-hmm. A lot of us that are here are just like, I kind of want the best thing. Like,
well, like you would have. It's kind of like I had the PlayStation 4 and I had the regular Xbox One. But when the new stuff came out, it starts to, scratch in the back of your neck that, like, what does this look like, on the better version? What does, this is good and all, but it runs better and it looks better. Okay. Well, it never stops itching until you scratch that itch. Right. So it would bother me. I mean, if I won it, let's say there was a giveaway and I won a raffle or something like that, I'd be happy, right? I'd try out the Lockhart or whatever it's called. But like in the back of my head, I'd be like, there's that better version. I don't know. That's just me.
But yeah. There's going to be more game stuff between now and then. I think the initiative, which is that like mega studio that they put together with like the head of the team, the head of the guy who did the Tomb Raider reboot is heading it up. Doug Murray, I think his name is. I'm missing his name right now. He's like heading up that studio with like Naughty Dog people and people from Crystal Dynamics and like a whole bunch of like they're going to change their name. They will no longer be the initiative once they reveal what the game is that they're doing, which I agree is likely to be Perfect Dark. But Sony doesn't drop something big in their presentation, they may hold off on revealing that game until the Game Awards. Because there's not really as much of a need to, especially if it's a few years out.
But you need to have these games. You need to have your few years out games. These generate the hype. Like, oh, I got to get that eventually. But
and I commend Xbox for doing that for once. Like good on them. Like, because I'm tired as an Xbox fan of hearing that the Xbox has no games. I am the thing is they get burned on something like Scalebound and suddenly they feel gun shy to announce something too early. and so I think they're protecting themselves, and now's the time. If they would have shown the Initiatives game today, I would have been all for it. Like, I get why they didn't, and maybe they're just not ready to show it. But
do you guys think we get another games one for both consoles, as opposed to, and then officially a console reveal for each one, like like a console price date one, or do you think the next two is, and that's it?
Yeah,
PlayStation. Sorry, are you talking Xbox or
both?
anybody?
I'm saying, like, do you think we get
PlayStation will not make an event for their price?
You don't think so?
No.
They don't do a shadow drop on a
know
Tuesday?
they're priced out of market. They know the Xbox is cheaper. They just want to spin the market,
and with the PS3 generation, if you remember, all the screenshots were the president on stage with that on the PowerPoint behind him. So even if they did have they won't hold an event just to reveal the price, but if they held an event, if there was an event and they tacked on the price would not be in front of any person. There would be no people. It would be a verbally spoken price, maybe. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to be, but what I wish would happen is I wish one of the console manufacturers would like give a price that's not the real price, just to then lure the other one into saying what their price really is, and then the original one say, "Just kidding, our price is actually this," and it's like $10.
We're the same as them.
Yeah, or no, like just barely less. Like that's what I want to see. But that's of course just.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
yeah,
if Sony was $399, they would have said it already.
Yeah, they are like $200 more than $300 or $399. Yeah, guaranteed. At least for the
that hard drive is that expensive.
Maybe for Canada.
Sorry.
Well, this is the other thing. This is the other thing. Though. Keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. The expansion storage space for the Xbox is proprietary. That's going to be batshit expensive. Yeah. So if you want a console that has suitable amount of onboard space, especially if we're moving to this all digital world stuff, you're going to have to lay down a couple extra $100 just for that expansion, right? So like, and I think marketing wise, I think that's why the lock card exists, and that's why this expansion slot exists. So you can say your base price is this. People see that, they compare PS5 digital versus Lockhart. Wow, the PS5 digital they're not going to get to the nuances of the PS5 digital is the same as the PS5 and the Lockhart is not the same as the X. They're not going to get it. That's most people. We're the only people that care about that. Most people don't. So they're going to see this Lockhart is way cheaper and they're going to go for that. And then afterwards, they're going to be like, shit, I need to add more space to this. Now I got to go buy a $200 thing, not realizing that if they would have just bought something else, like if all else is equal, like if they would have bought something else, like even the Xbox Series X, like it probably would have had more storage space, I'm guessing, or something. So that there's marketing tactics involved in making a price as cheap as possible, and that's any company
being able to say from $299 on your big banner.
It's important.
It's automatically going to grab the grandma who would be confused by the 1X and the Series X.
Yeah.
Thanks, Grandma. I'll take her right now.
All right. Shoot, I lost it. Never mind.
So Sony is taking more of a luxury approach. It's like the burger argument, right? You have a $14 burger that nobody's buying. You don't make it a $12 burger. You make it a $16 burger, and you add more shit to it. So what they showed for the PS5 comes with everything. Like you got the headset, you got the remote control, you got all this value-added shit that really doesn't amount to a whole lot more in production costs. But from a consumer perspective, that's when you can justify the $599 price tag, whatever that equates to. And on a margin side, it doesn't matter. But they're really looking at it as almost in a cocky way. I would say.
Bentley. It's the Bentley
thing,
right? Or Rolls Royce.
Yeah, but do they really have the performance or the quality to call themselves the Bentley of consoles, right? Is the difference really that much? And I'm a Sony guy. I love PlayStation for sure.
I've heard the deltas between the two are notable.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I'm not using that as a platform to call I'm trying not to fanboy here.
No, and you see it like it sure comes down
You
to
knew
the
it was
games in the
capable.
end.
You knew it was might come, but
Yeah,
No, that's why you're here. You fanboy out. It's cool.
Yeah.
No worries.
That's why I tried to give you that triple X analogy at the beginning of the show. Extreme Xbox expert.
but I do I do think Xbox will have an event where they specifically talk about the Lockhart and the price point and the release date and all that. It's not just going to be some quick tweet that they quickly tweet after. And by the way, here's all the games that are coming to. Ignore that other one
Yeah.
that I put out there.
It would be dumb for them not to have an event, because if they know they're going to be lower priced, like they should have an event and broadcast that, because then how sheepish is PlayStation going to be when they're like, oh, now we have to tell our price and it's more expensive. Oy. Like, so really what PlayStation should do probably is, knowing that the Xbox Lockhart is going to be cheaper than their digital edition, go ahead and announce the price of the PlayStation, knowing it's going to be undercut by the Lockhart, and just continue focusing on the things the reasons that people love PlayStation. Just focus on that and drive that home, and that's how they compete, I think.
Yeah, the longer you wait,
the longer
it's going to be. Sorry.
the longer they wait, like the exclusives are the big thing, right? Like that's it. Like story-based single-player exclusives are like a huge PlayStation like cornerstone, and the longer they wait, then the more of those things that get announced for Xbox, and they start to lose some ground there a little. Yeah, not to the same extent. It's not like Xbox just be like, hey, God of War 5.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be a great fake commercial though, if Xbox had a God of War 5 like trailer? They were just like, look what we got, just to be funny. I don't know. I think it'd be cool.
Well, that's probably what Hellblade is
They
for
should
them, right?
find
That's
a way
that'll work.
PS5 discs to run on Series X and just be like,
Leak out that mod, like make it very
No,
easily
Bleem.
moddable, right?
Bring back Bleem. Like Bleemcast.
Yeah.
But anyways, any more predictions?
Oh,
No.
I just think both consoles are gonna be $499. That's my prediction.
I guess that's what it's gonna be.
So
The top end
Anyway.
of both $499.
I think they're both gonna be $499. Yeah,
like the top tier model of both.
top tier, and I think the digital PS5 will be $449, and then I think the Lockhart's gonna be about $299.
I don't mean to shift it to PlayStation, but I really feel as if PlayStation now is either going to get rebranded, renamed, and it's going to be just a PlayStation version of Game Pass eventually. So
Yeah,
I imagine that's coming. I imagine that's got to be coming somewhere down the road.
It's the willingness to take the hit on day one, like giving first party games on day one is like the leverage that Xbox has put on PlayStation right now.
no denying that.
To make that move, like,
But if we say this, but if you think about it this way, if we agree that apples to apples, the exclusives on PlayStation are valued more by the consumer than exclusives on Xbox, then does it make sense for Xbox to say we can give that away? But PlayStation, maybe they're making crazy money selling those games, and it would be absurd for them to give those away for free, right? So they should probably have some sort of step approach and say some of our exclusives are going to be free. You know, like it couldn't be everything
after a time frame, like after 3
even if they
months.
gave it
after
three-
time frame, yeah.
Even if they gave it 3 months, 6 months, like if they went in that direction, like EA Access kind of gets there. They're still missing on some things. But if PlayStation now turned into PlayStation Game Pass effectively, I would be a lot quicker to look at that as
a PlayStation fan. I don't have now. It's the thing is the idea too that they remove their exclusives also is a very deterrent for me for now. Or they'll put Uncharted 4 on there, but it's only there for 3 months and then it's coming off. Yeah. Spider-Man's gonna be on there for a couple of months.
It's a Disney Vault kind of approach.
Yeah, and you know what?
Yeah, so far,
keep your damn games on there right now. It's Uncharted 4 is a $10 game right now. You know, like, what's the point of removing it? I don't know.
You should be able to just pop on there. Like I can go right now and play all the Fables and the Gears. I should be able to go on there and be able to play all the Infamous games, all the everything. You know,
I think until they have to, they won't, right? And so hopefully this generation will force them to have to. Like I have PlayStation now, and I really enjoy it. I download a ton of games from it. I play a lot of games that I missed in the past generations. The only generation you can't download is PlayStation 3. Everything else you can download. You have to stream PlayStation 3, and their streaming service sucks. So I can play a lot of these older like games from PlayStation 2 and stuff that I forgot about. And I love it. It's great. I think it's totally worth $10 a month. But I want, the exclusives are missing from there. Though the exclusives, again, this speaks to my reason for like PlayStation not having to do this. The exclusives are good enough that even though I have PlayStation now, I'm still going to buy them, most of them, pretty soon after day one, right? Like lately I haven't, just because I'm going through backlog shit, but Ghost of Tsushima would normally be a game that I would buy day one anyway, even if I had PlayStation now. And I wonder how many people are like me, who are like, I'll pay for both. You know, I wish I didn't have to, but I will. And that's business, I guess, you know?
It's true.
Yeah. Well, it's cheap enough, you'll buy double down, right?
Do you think maybe it's a geographical thing? I'm just looking at numbers right now for subscribers of streaming services of television across the globe. US 73 million just subscribed to Netflix in this quarter. All of Asia.
New subscriptions?
No, just total.
Or just total, okay.
Yeah, for this quarter. Japan, 6 million. So they have a Netflix Japan. I know it's very different, but I'm wondering if streaming just isn't a thing in the Asian market, and that's why Sony is sort of saying we probably wouldn't make money in the grand scheme of things.
If there's numbers specifically to indicate how many Sony people are streaming, like again, I don't stream PlayStation now because it sucks. I just download the games. So I wonder, so there's a difference there, and that Netflix is only streaming essentially, and so that could be tougher to navigate. Also, there's no like latency issues with Netflix, right? So Netflix people there's no input. So like that in general makes it a little bit different, but I think there's probably something in that comparison to like dig into. If overall subscription services, maybe as a more general statement, if those are less in Japan than in per capita than in the States or North America, then maybe they just aren't willing to invest in that because it doesn't make sense for them to.
Right.
All right. I'm going to wrap up the show right here with the final or the reveal for November's PlayStation Game of the Month.
PlayStation.
Me and Cartridge Club, right?
Cartridge Club, whatever. Cartridge Club Prime November Game of the Month. Edit that.
Has nothing to do with PlayStation.
No, and that's the thing is, the funny thing is we got busted because the last two games are kind of PlayStation exclusives. One being on the PS4 and one being on the PS1, and I imagine Parasite has been re-released maybe on PC or something. No.
Oh, well. It was PS1
Sorry.
exclusive.
Two PlayStation exclusives.
But we just played Gears.
But
Yoshi's Island right now. So
But this one isn't a PlayStation exclusive, and in fact, you can play it on your Xbox. And in fact, it was a game I was hoping was going to be revealed today. So we're going to reveal that the game for November is Banjo-Kazooie. It's a former Nintendo 64 exclusive, but with the acquisition of Rare to Xbox, you can also play it on Game Pass or the Rare Replay disc. So November's Game of the Month. I know we've had a couple of gloomy games. I don't know, gloomy games, but a little bit serious tone games. We kind of wanted to lighten it up with November with a little bit more cheery game with the 3D platformer collectathon known as Banjo-Kazooie. So November, we will be playing Banjo-Kazooie for Cartridge Club Prime.
Is this on 64 only, or
no 64 and Xbox 360 and
the original's on Xbox 360?
Yep.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought it was just nuts and bolts.
And Xbox One too. It's on Game Pass. So.
Okay. Wow. Oh, cool.
It's 4K on Xbox One.
There you go.
Get those beautiful N64 graphics in 4K.
I'll buy one.
So, that's what we have for this show, everybody. I'm gonna give everyone a plug here. You know what, Josh, you made it through here with the your phone tethered internet here.
Yeah, I did cut out a couple times, but it didn't affect the show, so that's awesome.
I'm glad it worked. So, Josh, tell us where we can find you online.
Yes, I'm on Twitter at Frantic Society, Frantic Thoughts Podcast, solo podcast where I ramble, and Quick Save Club and Cartridge Club Prime every now and then.
Thank you for being here. Deansy, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitter, round_2_gaming, and soon enough you could probably find me with a gamer tag round 2 gaming. We'll see.
I'm going to take it first.
Oh.
Damn it! Don't air this one, Ryan.
You could still take round_2_gaming if you
I
want.
hate it. I hate it.
You could find me on all of the internets at Caleb J. Ross. YouTube is where I'm probably most active right now, youtube.com/Caleb J. Ross. But I'm also on Twitter. But yeah, YouTube. I've been doing a lot of Stadia content lately. So for you 4 Stadia fans out there, swing by.
I tune in because I'm interested.
Thank you.
Musty, where can we find you online?
On Twitter, which is probably the social media that you'll find me most readily, is at Musty Hobbit. I have the YouTube channel, which I recently rebranded to reflect the content, and so that is Xboxer Briefs, where I do short form reviews of original and other Xbox games. I'm leaving the door open on that. But yeah, I've been having a good time doing that. I do also stream on Twitch, and you can find me there at Musty Hobbit as well.
As for myself, you can find me on Twitter at It's Rocket Sauce, Instagram, same handle, Coastal Prime, Hangouts, these shows. Yeah, we plan to do more of them. We're going to have another Xbox show. We're going to have another PlayStation show, and we have more games to reveal. So keep on the lookout. When we know that they're going to do it, we'll do another one. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.